When you realize that the cartel is so omnipresent, no matter who you are, if you're not willing to capitulate, you will. Right. I worked for the Secretary of Public Security, and the entire time I was hunting cartels in Mexico, several of my brothers have been murdered, so I take it personally.
You talked about coming across the mass grave with your general.
Valparaiso.
What are we talking? How big a grave?
It hasn't even been unearthed. Rain will start washing stuff away. Things will be revealed. There's body parts sticking out of the ground. This is when I started realizing what Mexico was about. Oh, one day we're in the factory and they shut everything down at 12 o'clock because at 2 o'clock the cartel's coming and shutting everything down, burning buses on the highway because the cartels are pissed off.
I've been thinking of this all day, Dave, because it's not that long ago, but this is a whole different era. How do you create a 20, 30, 50-year plan to maybe not even fully eliminate the cartels, but eliminate the heavy, dense, wide-reaching influence they have in Mexico? Is that even possible?
I'm glad you asked. You have to.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much as always for watching my channel. If you have not hit that subscribe button, can you please do me a huge favor and hit that right now? I appreciate everyone who's been watching these videos consistently. The #1 analytic we need to get these videos into the algorithm is you guys hitting the subscribe button though. And when you do that, we get them in and we can continue getting great guests. So thank you to everyone who's already taken the time to do that. And thank you to all of you who are going to do so now. Enjoy the episode.
So you and I have been talking throughout the day. For people tuning in, we're ending up doing 2 podcasts here, and they're very separate, like kind of topics. We just left off at a perfect spot so they can each be watched like individually on their own. But once you went through all your stuff and you finally get completely sober, you obviously have some interesting skill sets for sure, but what'd you say? You wanted to go hunt Al-Qaeda in Russia?
And so anyways, yeah,
What year are we in?
This is this is 2005.
Okay. What
2005
befalls you to want to do that?
Well, I'd been in the Bering Sea anyways. And so anyways, I was fishing and crabbing there. And I'm not even going to get off on it, man. That was Nicole and me wanting to go make $100 gazillion to buy her a wedding ring. And that turned into a few years, but I wind up in Russia. And the reason, and we started this all off with like political stuff on the first episode about my basic belief system and growing up on a farm, running around free. Mm-hmm. And I'd gone down to enlist in the Marine Corps, first at 16 and then several times after that, and almost aced the ASVAB. And we were just talking about it off camera about me being a little bit, maybe mildly autistic. I know I'm not the best storyteller or whatever. I've got a particular way about me, and I'm not trying to not entertain you people, but I mean, it's just me.
In this one, stay away from the comment sections. Just stay with me. You're doing great. You're doing a great job. All
so
right.
anyways, I go down and I'm physically fit. I can run a mile in like 5 minutes and 15 seconds, or could.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I was really not right now, man. I'm sucking air, to be honest, because I've been just focused on school and not spending time in the gym and focused on work. But very physically fit and smart. So I almost aced the ASVAB, but every time because of the stuff with that, what had happened at that drug dealer's house. They're telling me, no, you take the test. They're like, yeah, you can be whatever you want. Military intelligence, blah, blah, blah.
And then the background check.
Then the background check comes along and like, get the fuck out of here. And I've got this belief that you're free, that people don't own you, especially if you want to do the right thing. And so I wanted to go hunt Al-Qaeda because I did not like Daniel Pearl, a Jew who was also an American, having his head cut off by Al-Qaeda. And I kind of took issue with that, and one day I was sitting there, and I'm generally not into morbid videos. In fact, my wife is a reporter, or was, and she still gets a lot of communication from people that are in the know, that are doing all this stuff in Mexico that you run into. And she'll show me that stuff every once in a while, and it pisses me off because I've seen plenty of it. I'm not like one of these people that watches whatever the narco websites are, gore.com. But I happened to see this video. And when I saw that video, it moved me to the sense of I can't morally stand by and allow this to happen, whether or not some politician in a suit somewhere is going to tell me, hey, Mr. Frank, you can go confront this on our behalf, or you can't. Fuck off. I'm going to go do it myself. And no, I mean, because there's a lot of people that'll say a lot of things, but it's mostly talk.
Right.
Because talk's easy. They get their endorphins and then they're happy and they move on to their next thing. And I even do that myself. I got to be careful about how much I say. Like, I don't really want to talk about the law or the degree. School's starting tomorrow on the 29th. But you got to be about action, man. So, when I kept going down there and they kept telling me no, I finally got to the point with it, provoked principally by that video, that I'm not going to stand for this shit, period. Which is also why I went down and got shot in the ear with that thing.
Right, that's a separate story. We don't need to go
but
back to that.
But we're not going back to it, but it's about the action, which is what's important. So I wound up in Russia wanting to go get Al-Qaeda because it's a mutual thing. Obviously you're not allowed to join their military and stuff, but I was looking at becoming law enforcement in Russia.
You wanted to become law enforcement in Russia?
That confronts Al-Qaeda.
Did you already speak Russian at this point?
Yeah. I taught myself Russian.
So you picked that up when you were fishing on the Bering Straits?
Yeah, I studied it because you got time when you're scrubbing the boat and stuff like that. Tak, ABVGD, the alphabet, the whole thing, man.
Gotcha.
And so I'm learning that, and I learn it. And initially, it's just a basic working command of Russian. My second wife was Russian, and my daughter is Russian and still lives there to this day. I lived in Russia for a little while, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to go after Al-Qaeda. But because I had a daughter in Russia, my ex-mother-in-law, who was a former KGB agent, for real, and my ex-wife begged me to come back to the United States because in Russia, you only make like $250 a month. Mm-hmm. It's very low pay. And my ex-mother-in-law stopped being KGB, wound up becoming like normal police and a school teacher of all things. And so they begged me to come back to the United States, and I did because Katya, my daughter, was born. And I agreed to do that. So I didn't get to go very far down the Al-Qaeda route in Russia.
Did you so you picked to hunt Al-Qaeda in Russia because you spoke Russian and your wife and daughter were there? So you're like, well,
they weren't my wife and daughter yet. That was initially, I was like, man, I need to find a way to get to Russia.
And they had presence in Russia at the time heavily.
Right.
So you're like, I could hunt them here if I wanted to.
Yeah, well, Bashkortostan, where we lived, was 70% Muslim. So
is that in the Caucasus?
Yeah, well, no, it's not. It's just to the east of it. It's on the southern range, or the southern end of the Ural mountain range.
Okay.
And which ironically is where Russia has most of their weapons made. So, in the Volga River. So just just kind of a brief history lesson on the the USSR, Sovietska Soyuz. They lost 14 republics when the USSR broke up. Mm-hmm. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Dagestan, Uzbekistan. There's a whole bunch of stans on the south. All of the stans are all Muslim-heavy populations. And, in fact, even speak, I don't know what the language is. For example, in Bashkortostan, which is where I was, they speak Bashkiri, Tatarsky, and Russian. And my daughter's birth certificate, believe it or not, is in Russian and in Bashkiri, which is a Muslim people. So they've got Muslims all through the south of Russia, and it's right next to Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and all these other stands. So it's a good place to be looking for how to get into that type of shit. And I wanted to do that, but I wound up having a daughter. So I didn't get very far. Yeah, the Republic of Bashkortostan, I was in Sterlitamak specifically.
Beautiful. Wow.
And so when I wound up over there, I wound up flying into Ufa at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was being picked up.
This is like 05?
Huh?
This is like 05?
Yeah. And I'm being picked up by two military members that were actually my in-laws and being driven south to Sterlitamak, which is about a 2-hour drive. And I didn't know if they were going to hack me up in a white tile room. My daughter wasn't born yet or any of that shit. But yeah, I was over there trying to figure out how I was going to go hunt people that would cut off our heads, because it's just not cool, dude.
And as a guy with no experience doing something like that, You mentioned you were going
I
to try
grew
to
up-
join like Russian, police force or something. But like, what's your plan to go hunt them? Like knock on doors and say, "Are you Al Qaeda?"
Yeah. You go over there and you definitely you're knocking on doors like the FSB, like the Federal Outland Služba, Bezopasnosti, and all these different things, which you can't join a foreign military or intelligence service, but you can definitely go down there, and they've got different types of Russian police, like Oman, OMON, different police sources or forces that are geared towards that type of stuff. Which is not all that different from what I was doing in Mexico. But I happen to have a daughter, which is the difference between Russia and Mexico.
Right.
Had my daughter not been born, I would probably be not having this conversation and still be living in Russia. So that's what happened. My daughter was born, and I came back to the United States at the behest of my ex-wife.
To be able to send money back because you could make more of it.
Right, and I did all their visa paperwork and stuff like that and brought them over here.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
They're here now.
They were. This is actually the impetus or what provoked mine and my ex-wife's divorce, because she went back home to Russia to go visit her mom. And there was always a problem with that. The night my daughter was born, she was born at Soda Hospital in Sterlitamac. And I told my ex-wife, I'm like, call me, not your mother-in-law or not your mother. I want to be the first guy to know about my daughter being born. And of course, they didn't do that. And her mother were always very, they outsmarted me, man. To be super honest. And it was never about me. I was just a tool for them. But it was an honest marriage. I mean, I wanted a family, but she went back to Russia and left my daughter there. And the entire time I was hunting drug cartels in Mexico, my ex-wife has lived in this country and remained in this country to this day and has left my daughter over in Russia.
With the grandparents?
With my ex-mother-in-law, yeah.
Wow.
And so obviously when that wasn't going to happen, I tried to buy my daughter back for like $10,000, which is what I had in my 401k cash. And it didn't work. And you can't be with someone that you can't trust. So
I'd say you tried to buy her back.
Yeah. So I'm making like $100,000 a year at this company, and we're doing all kinds of military.
What company?
Triumph Actuation Systems, Valencia. And I got a job there as a manufacturing supervisor. And I was making like $100,000 a year. I was making good money, but my ex-wife comes back without my daughter, and I'm training. I was trying to go pro in the UFC at the time. Yeah, I was training at Go Korchevicians in North Hollywood with Manvel Gamburian, Sevik Magakian, Karan Darabedian, Karo Parisian was no longer at the gym, but used to be there. Ronda Rousey was there at the time. And sitting there, and leads into how I get my job in Mexico. So I'm sitting there training with top-level UFC talent that are on TV with Dana White. In fact, Manvel Gamburian has fought either Nick or Nate Diaz, who is, shout out to, hey, Nate, man, I love you, dude, my favorite fighter, man. That guy's just great.
Nate Diaz is a gangster.
He is all gangster. So anyways, I'm like into that type of shit, and I'm sitting there at the gym practicing judo, and I get this phone call on my ex-wife's American cell phone, because in Russia, you have a different cell phone system. It's Beeline, and your American cell phones won't work over there at all, period, because it's a completely different system. Yeah. So I get a phone call from her on her American cell phone. So immediately I know that she's here when she had been in Russia. So I'm like, all right, I go down to Tom Bradley Airport, shower, go down there. My daughter's not there. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, Katya, yeah. I'm like, where's Katya at? Because it's not a suitcase that you just left.
In the past year, I found a different kind of microdose, and it's a legal, psychoactive mushroom that doesn't make you trip out or see God. The mushroom is called Amanita muscaria, the red one with the white spots that you've seen in every video game or fairy tale ever. Unlike psilocybin microdosing, Amanita doesn't push you into a psychedelic headspace. It calms you down without making you foggy, helps you focus without jitters, and makes you sleep way deeper without the hangover. A lot of people are using it as an alcohol replacement or a weed alternative because it gives you that relaxed, warm feeling without the downsides. No paranoia, no next day brain fog, no dependency issues. Have you ever tried other nootropics or adaptogens and felt like they didn't do much? Amanita actually does something. You feel it. It's subtle at low doses, but it's real. And I personally like the low doses. Perfect. But you can also take it in a medium-sized dose to have a good old jolly time, or just use it in smaller doses to lock in during the day like me. I like Amintara's Blue Lotus capsule because it's just enough to get a little feeling and go about my day without having any distractions whatsoever to get into that flow state. And that's why the only brand I trust for Amanita is Amintara. Clean sourcing, no synthetics, no sketchy additives, and they actually educate people instead of just pushing the product. So if you want to check out Amanita at Amintara for yourself today, go to www.amintara.com/go/Julian. That link is in my description below, and use code JD22 at checkout for 22% off your order. Once again, that's www.amintara.com/go/Julian. Link in my description below. Use code JD22 at checkout for 22% off your order.
She tells me that she wanted an extended honeymoon for both of us, but that was just, it was already over in that moment. That marriage was over. And in the second marriage, the first marriage, I was not a good husband. In the second marriage, I was a pretty decent husband because I'd learned a lot. And I was sober, been sober the entire time. I just made up my mind in that moment, I'm going to take this year trying to get my daughter back. But this marriage is over. And I never did get my daughter back. And my daughter has lived in Russia to this day. She still lives there. My ex.
Did you ever talk with her?
I tried to while I was in Mexico, yeah. There's some stuff that's gone on with my daughter's life that's had a very, very, very hard upbringing. And, you know, I'm responsible for that too. I was not the best husband or father, and I would have liked to have been. I was very motivated by money, but I wound up not getting to raise my daughter. My daughter was very close to me when I was young, when she was younger, and I was younger too. Hell, this is going back 20 years now. Because she's going to be 20 soon. So I loved having my daughter around, and it just broke my heart. So when that happened, I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to find a way. I'd written the Procuraduría General de la República, which is the Mexican Department of Justice. Didn't give a damn about that job or the money. We were having an off.
What made you want to go down to Mexico?
I knew that my ex-wife was just using my money and my salary at that job for financial gain because I was making a lot of money and I wasn't going to let it happen. I figured because the cartels had given me drugs when I was a child and it had shaped my life in such a drastic way. And at 15, granted, you're not a child, but you're not an adult yet either. You're still malleable. I was going to go do something to confront it. So this job offered the opportunity to be able to go to Mexico, and I wanted to go confront drug cartels because I have this strong belief that children shouldn't be given drugs. And if my daughter's not in my life and my ex-wife is trying to use her just for financial incentive or gain, I have nothing to gain by keeping this job because I don't give a damn about the money. I'm not motivated by money per se. I'm very much. I try to be. I'm not angelic either, man. Don't get me wrong, man. I like my truck. I got a nice wheels, this type of thing. But it's not the beginning and end of everything. You got to be principled. So I wrote the Procuraduría General de la República, which is basically the Mexican Department of Justice. And I'm like, I would like to come to work for you. I'm adept at weapons, martial arts. I speak 3 different languages fluently. And I wrote the thing in Spanish too, and it was in perfect Spanish.
When did you pick up Spanish along the way?
I'm from LA. It's our second language.
Got it. Well, you didn't move to LA till you were 14.
Sí, pero todos modos, por ejemplo, cuando yo fui, por ejemplo, a secundaria, yo estaba platicando con los muchachas y peleando.
Okay, bravo.
Yeah, I speak it very well. And I started learning it, reading La Opinión of all things. And I had friends in school that were Latino. So I wasn't like this crazy, like white supremacist, like, hey, I want to burn crosses and shit, but also not putting up with any gangster shit either. Right. So like I learned Spanish and I wrote that letter and they didn't answer me for a long time. And I had like between 180 to 220 people under my charge at Triumph Actuation Systems Valencia, running 3 shifts of basically 65 people each, and most of them were of Latino descent too, from Mexico. Some of them even directly from Mexico. And I told, and it was when Obama was in charge, and I told executive management, because I was middle management, that, hey, I'm not with sending my guys jobs south of the border. And I did. I told them that. And they didn't like it, but they needed me because the biological dad had a factory where we were making 90% of the airport runway lights in the world. So I have a lot of background, an engineering background, but everything from taking raw material and converting it into something that's a flight critical part or whatever. I know how to do this entire thing. Drafting it, programming it, contractual obligations. There's a lot that goes on. For example, you can machine military parts in Mexico. Yeah, this is a fact for all of our fans out there. You can machine military parts in Mexico as long as it's not a finished military part coming back across the border due to contractual obligations.
Semantics. Yeah.
It's not semantics. It's a matter of law, and you better have that shit down tight, because if not, it's your ass and you're going to federal prison. But they will take parts from Boeing that get used, for example, ball bearings on nose landing gear of different aircraft. And as long as that part has not received finished inspection, and as long as you have not transported due to ITAR, which is International Trade and Arms Regulations, as long as you're not delivering a finished drawing or a blueprint to foreigners, you can come up with work instructions and drawings that detail what needs to be manufactured, the dimensions that need to be manufactured in that step. Manufacture what's basically a complete component. And as long as it has not been signed off by finished inspection, which gets done here in the United States, you can produce whatever the you want in Mexico and then come back. And Airbus, which basically has a lot of their instructions in French and some of it in English is done here, and Boeing have a lot of their work done down in Mexico. And this was not my call at all. This is at a corporate level, but this is what goes on. So they're basically short selling all of the wages and labors of American workers and sending it to a place where the workers are going to get paid between 4,000 and 6,000 pesos a month. So I was doing that, and I didn't want to do that. So I told my company to pound sand because I'm not going to do it. First team goes down there and they fail, but because my dad has the background that he has with his factory, I have that background too of bringing something all the way from conception to completion. Whatever you want to build, it doesn't matter. CNC programs, the whole thing. Coming up with return on investment, ROI form, requests for quotes, RFQs, the whole thing. So the first team fails, and in the interim of the first team failing, the Procuraduría General de la República emails me back. It took them like 6 months, and the 6 months they were taking while the first team was down there failing, they finally get back to me. They're like, Mr. Frank. And I'd asked them for a job hunting drug cartels, enough to pay a small rent on a small apartment and for some tacos and razors. It just so happens.
Tacos and razors.
It just so happens to be the way that I phrased it. I wasn't trying to be a jerk or anything, but this is really kind of like the way it went. And the first team had failed because they didn't have the background that I had. So I'm designing all these processes to go down to people that have no manufacturing background at all. They're chili farmers. When you plant chili, you plant it like this with the root between your fingers. And the reason why I know that specifically, even though I've never farmed a chili in my life, is because everybody that we hired was either a degreed engineer straight out of school with no machining experience, or someone that barely had a secondary or junior high school education to create a machining industry in the state of Zacatecas, which, as we all know now, per the Peace Index, is one of the most dangerous places in all of Zacatecas. And ironically, the way I got out of going there to begin with was telling my company that I worked for that I was afraid of the cartel because they had shot up the police station there for 2 or 3 hours straight. Yeah, so I had a leg to stand on. It wasn't insubordination, as it were. It was a legit fear. I was lying, but it was a fear that could be substantiated in a court of law. So I didn't have to go. And the first team went there and they failed. They write me back and they're like, Mr. Frank, lamento que decir que en este momento no puedes trabajar para nosotros, which means, Mr. Frank, we're sorry to tell you, but in this moment, you can't work for us. And I thought that was great.
In this moment.
That's the thing I love about you being a sales guy, because everything's always in the wording. It's always in the details, the way that you say something. And that was just it. I looked at it because I was talking off camera. Julian and I were having a conversation about sales. And there are different ways of closing people. And one of those closes is like a silent close. There's getting to the real objective. There's whether or not sales are an emotional or a logical thing. Emotional buyers, logical buyers, all these elements that go into something. So when they told me that, what I heard was, hey, you can come work for us. We just need to button up the details. And as soon as I heard that shit, and my ex had still had and this is like a year into it. My daughter had been in Russia for like a year now at this point. And she's thinking, oh, this fool's going to work, making all this money. I'm going to rake him over the coals in divorce court. And that had nothing to do with my decision to go there. The financial aspect of it. Nothing. On my mother.
I believe you.
No, the financial. No, because I'm still in Penny. I'm still in Hawk. I still pay child support. You want to hear something funny? Here you go, single fathers. I pay child support on a daughter that for years, ever since there's been an economic or a financial embargo, financial sanctions against Russia, I pay child support on a child every month. Every month.
Not for that.
Yeah, no, not for that. Not for that. But it could be stated, we could say that I pay money every month, and my daughter doesn't get a penny of it because all of the sanctions against Russia. You're not allowed. I wanted to buy my daughter an iPhone. And I could not buy my daughter an iPhone without sending the money to India and then sending it to Russia that way. God. Yeah, my own daughter, because of the economic sanctions against it. So all the money that the government takes from me here where I pay to do that, because I still pay on that shit, even though she's an adult, she doesn't get a penny of it.
That's fucked up.
That's a fact. You look it up. Anybody that's got a Russian baby mama and your kids in Russia, surprise. Hey, that's a fact, dude. So anyways, I'm in Russia. I'm in Mexico.
What year?
This
did you
is
first go down there? Because they said not in this moment, and then when did it become the moment where they said come down?
The tail end of 2010.
Okay, so you go down there.
Obama's in office. I'm down there. We're doing this thing called a low-cost company.
Called a what?
LCC project. Low-cost company.
Is this with what's the organization called again?
Triumph Actuation Systems Valencia, but it's not just Triumph Actuation Systems Valencia. Wait a minute.
Hold on. Back up.
Yeah.
So you're not down there with the Mexican military yet. You're down there with the same company you were working for.
Right. They sent me down there to install or implement a $60 million factory in Zacatecas, which was getting tax breaks from the Zacatecas government to the tune of $1 million or $2 million a year.
That's nice.
To do business down there. First team goes down there and they drop the ball completely, which is predictable because what this really is, it's the factory, because there's Triumph Group is a huge international company. Huge. I had stock options, the whole thing. And what's really going on is while they are sending stuff down there to make money on the wages, savings here, they're also at the same time taking all of their problem projects that they're not profitable in and sending it down to Mexico to get it off their plate. So predictably, the team that did go down there that didn't have very much experience was going to fail, even with degreed engineers and even with, especially with people that aren't even good machinists. So I get down there. And I go down there at the end of 2010 and they're like, hey, just go down there and fix it. And I'm like, because I told them I'm not going to do it, I'd sealed my fate at that company. But they needed me. And I told, and I knew where you can read the writing on the wall. So I told them, I'm going to go down there for a year. I'm going to fix all this shit, but train my replacement because I'm not coming back. And so that had to have been in March of 2010 because, it was actually the tail end of 2010. I quit in March of 2012, and in May 1st of 2012, I was at state. But we'll get into all the details. Yep. So I go down there, and I'm going to work, and I'm still a tourist, man. I don't know anything that's about going on in Mexico. I'm eating papaya and mango slices with hot sauce, and people are like, "You're not afraid there?" I'm like, "This is fucking great, man." I'm single because I'm not with
Russian chick.
Yeah, with the Russian chick. Everyone in Mexico's hot. Everything's built out of Cartel is like super, like just everything's carved out of stone. It's beautiful. It's very a colonial city. There was nothing about it that I didn't like, man. I fell in love with Mexico immediately. But I'm obviously not working for the government. So I'm using this thing to bankroll all my opportunities to go knock on doors. The Federal de Caminos, which is like Mexican Federal Highway Patrol, they're now defunct. They're not in existence anymore because they got taken over by the Guardia Nacional, or the Mexican National Guard. But back then they were. So I'm knocking on their door. I'm knocking on the Policía Federal Preventiva's door over at, they don't really have an office there, but they're all at the Howard Johnson's Inn and at another hotel there. So I'm walking up to these guys with machine guns and shit, telling them, hey, I want a fucking job. And they're all telling, yeah, and I'm knocking on the Procuraduría General de la República, the people that answered my door. They're actually located about 5 miles south where the factory is at the airport. And so I go there.
You're just waiting for the first one to say winner, winner, chicken
I'm
dinner.
knocking down there. Yeah, I'm gonna go get into some shit with the cartels, man. Yeah, so I'm actually seeking this out.
Yeah.
And just they were like blowing me off, and I didn't know the structure of everything either. Like the Policía Federal Ministerial are all lawyers and shit. They're not. Yeah, so law enforcement in Mexico is structured differently too.
Yeah, let's teach this lesson for all of us out there, because we kind of always lump it. I mean, I'm
glad that I've got the opportunity.
Thing,
Yeah, let's just make one thing clear. Like, I started my channel for one distinct reason. And I've spoken to you at end about that, but just for our audience's sake, I've got a life story that's kind of different too. So
I'll say
that's factored into it. But as far as law enforcement in Mexico goes, you basically have Policía Municipal, which are the Mexican version of city cops or small town cops. Generally corrupt. Not all of them, but most of them are. And the reason why they are is because of their proximity, immediate proximity with cartels that are eradicated or not eradicated in the same place. They live in the same place, operate in the same place, and everybody knows everybody. So there's a substantial opportunity for a weed to take root or whatever, just for an analogy or a metaphor. So they become corrupt to a very high level. So it's not a place that you want to think about going to work, because if you do, you're taking a substantial risk, much more so than even being something like Policía Federal Preventiva or Policía Estatal Preventiva, or even the military in terms of the Marines or the Army.
It's that time of year again. Spring cleaning's coming around. And I remember during last year's spring cleaning, I loved getting rid of my old deodorant so that I could bring Mando into my life. Mando Whole Body Deodorant is an absolute game changer. Made by the founders of Lumi, Mando is helping men conquer their odor in a new way. I've always talked in the past about being paranoid about deodorant wearing off. With Mando, I can throw it on and I know I'm good throughout the day, wherever I go and whatever I do. Mando's Whole Body Deodorant is safe to use anywhere on your body, whether it's pits, balls, thigh folds, belly buttons, butt cracks, or feet. It works in all those places. Mando was also created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. So he made a product that can block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. And Mando has multiple deodorant product options. You can use the solid deodorant stick, which is formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. Or you can use the spray deodorant, which is aluminum-free and ideal for hard-to-reach places. Some men mask their BO with scents. Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it. Mando it. Head on over to shopmando.com today, because for a limited time only, new customers are going to get 20% off site-wide using our exclusive code. So use code Julian at shopmando.com. That link is in my description below for 20% off site-wide. That's shopmando.com. Link in my description below, and code Julian at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. Well, also, just for like context too, this is where I also always feel some empathy. It's like those guys you're talking about at the first rung who are in it.
Right.
You know, they get approached by these organizations that literally have the fucking president bought. And they say, hey, you like your mom, you like your wife, you like your
100%,
kids.
yeah.
We're gonna slit your throats if you don't fucking tell us this, or that.
And
like
it does
it's
happen.
crazy.
Since leaving, two? Fifi and there's another one. Two of the members of my platoon went elsewhere. Yeah. Nasario went elsewhere to become chief of police, and both of them had to leave. And I know how valiant these guys are because I've worked with them. Went to go become chief of police in smaller towns, or municipios, as you would call it in Mexico. And both of them had to step down because of cartel threats directly. In fact, one of them had his father killed because of it.
Ugh.
Yeah, so
You hear that story far too often.
well, I just
It's all
want to
the
say that
time.
my wife and I make breakfast in our home in Mexico in a place where someone was tortured to death in our family.
In your family.
In our family. Where my wife and I cook breakfast and dinner, there was someone that was tortured to death there for a week. And we did not do it. It was someone that,
Yeah, I gathered that part.
it was violent. It was brutal. They burned his body to death. And he was already probably dead. And we don't know, but probably. Burned him in two distinct locations in the house. And when I was cleaning up his fat, when you burn a body, like, or actually burning it on a floor where there's not a container to trap the grease gets everywhere and your feet slip in it when you're trying to clean it up. This is something I learned in Mexico. So like when I'm talking about Mexico, I want people to realize that there are real price tags, human price tags to everything I'm talking about.
Who was this family member that the cartels tortured to death in your house?
I am not allowed to say it by my wife, but I'm just going to say it was extremely close, immediate family. And not only that, when you're going to put Pergo wood floors in a couple years later, you're still finding little specks of his blood in the corner. So this is just... I want to say that, Julian, because I mean, a lot of people, Ed was aware of me for about a year before we finally did our interview.
Calderon.
Right. So people know who the fuck I am, and I come off a certain way, and sometimes it's kind of a jerk way, and I admit it. I'm not the most social butterfly out there. I'm not trying to be cute, but I mean, I really have a demeanor about me.
I got you.
But it's also an honest demeanor. And so when I'm saying something, there's a fucking reason for it. And when I'm being critical of shit, that's why. Not just that, but 100 other things. So anyways, like two of my brothers, they go to become municipal police and they both get run off because I don't know what happened, but I know enough about what goes on there that it was something to do with family or some shit like that. That's municipal police. So when you're talking shit about municipal police, they're not always corrupt. They just want to eat and they want to do their job. But also, if they don't play ball, it could be just a deal-breaking moment, and that's it. And when it's a deal-breaking moment, it's your ass.
Morally treacherous territory for sure.
Well, I like the fireball of the ham and egg breakfast. You ever hear that one?
Maybe. I mean, I'm aware of the ham and egg
Consider,
breakfast.
if you will, the ham and egg breakfast.
Okay.
It's a breakfast enjoyed by millions of people around the world every day. And the chicken, he comes around, he lays an egg. He's got something to do with it, but he's going home. But the pig, it's the pig's ass. The pig's not going home. So the chicken's involved, but the pig's committed. And Mexican law enforcement a lot of the times is like that. Meaning
Pig's committed?
The pig is committed. That pig's not walking away from that ham and egg breakfast. He's going to be fucking buried. The chicken's got...
Interesting word to use. I gotcha.
The chicken's fucking, yeah, it knows about it. It was there, laid an egg, took off, went home. But the pig, that's it.
They're done.
Mexican law enforcement's a lot like that. And there's also one other thing I came up with while I was down there. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Mexico never even happened. It's fucking so like that, man. And so when I watch this shit that we talk about here, I don't have a problem with the way that anybody thinks. I'm not going to get off topic. I'm going to stick with the law enforcement. The next level to that, obviously, is either state ministerial or preventiva. Preventiva, in every instance of the word, is ass-kicking police. They're the ones that are going to go out and they're getting in the gunfights and stuff like that, which is what I pertain to immediately.
What's their equivalent in America, the preventiva?
There's not one.
There isn't one. It's like in between FBI and cops, kind of.
No, it's in between FBI, HRT, and FBI. You're going after Okay, here's why it's not in between FBI and cops. I'll explain it because I was actually my ex-girlfriend Nicole, the one I wound up in the Bering Sea over. She banked at the North Hollywood Bank of America where that happened. So we were right there for the 44-minute gun shootout. We weren't at the shootout. I watched it on TV, but we banked there, and I'm very aware that 2 people with AK-47s took on basically 300 LAPD, which is before every squad car had a long arm or a long rifle. And they went to town on 300 police officers that had to get higher power weapons from a gun shop to even be able to do battle with them. So when I'm talking, I'm not dissing American law enforcement. I'm just saying that the particulars of what happens in the United States with criminals and what happens in Mexico with an armed, trained enemy combatant in a low-intensity conflict, which even does have IEDs because they'll try to blow you up out of your trucks too. It just happened again. You're facing someone that's going to come after you, target you, works in squads, is organized, trained, capable, determined enemy combatant as opposed to someone that's ripping off cars and selling them. It's not the same at all dynamic. So it is the equivalent of doing SWAT work every single day of the week. Mm. So it's not a rip on American police. And thank God that they've controlled it over here to where we don't live in a dynamic like that. It's also not me swinging my dick trying to be like I'm more than, it's just what it is.
Right.
So.
And you're knocking on the doors of all these places you're mentioning.
I finally, so I'm almost there.
Yep, keep going.
State Preventiva, Federal Preventiva, State Ministerial, Federal Ministerial. So ass-kicking investigations.
Right.
Broken down that way. And the people that I had originally written were the Federal Ministerial, who are also the Estatal Ministerial, who I did apply for. The commander of that guy actually came back to the United States and was arrested by the American government and finally let go. Went back to Zacatecas and was murdered. And that's another story, sidebar on that one. But anyways, I wound up going to this Estatal Preventiva, knocking on a general's door for the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública. So I wasn't even technically Policía Estatal. I worked for the Secretary of Public Security, directly for a general, which is how I even got in because otherwise I couldn't even have done it.
How did you end up directly for a general, though?
I got in there as an instructor because I was training with Manvel Gamburian and everyone at Gokor Chivichians. My level of martial arts is actually pretty decent.
So you used that, and they're like, "Oh, we want that."
As an instructor, I went down there and knocked on his gate, and the first day they blew me off, and I went back down there. And bear in mind, the whole time I'm managing this factory. Oh, one day we're in the factory and they shut everything down at 12 o'clock. This is when I started realizing what Mexico was about. And typically we would work until 5 o'clock at night. And every night at 5 o'clock, I'm out of there, knocking on doors. This day they tell us, hey, you got to bail at 12 o'clock because at 2 o'clock the cartel's coming and shutting everything down, burning buses on the highways. And every business in the capital city of this state is closing its doors because the cartels are pissed off because they're not getting extra money from the bars for allowing them to stay open until 2 o'clock. Whoa. And I'm in my hotel and I'm scared because I'm watching this shit happen. I'm like, whoa. And I'd been at work running my mouth about I want to become an agent here or whatever because that's really, I'm like fairly open about what I do.
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
And I'm watching that. I'm thinking, fuck, man, they could come in here just like they do in other areas, machine gun everybody in the fucking entire hotel because we're right there on Avenida Hidalgo, right downtown. And I watch this, but I'm committed. I'm a pig. And I'm going to do it. And I really meant it. So not in a funny way. The joke's funny, but I've really...
Yeah, using the word... The pig's committed to talk
it's got slaughtered. Like it's a pun. It's a whole thing. It's got.
Oh my God.
So I knock on this general's door and they tell me you can come back. And I'm in my tie and everything. They tell me come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So I come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And this is the first guy that's really giving me the time of day because the federal guys are just telling me to pound sand. I go down there. I come back the next day at 9 o'clock. They let me go up. I'm sitting in the waiting room for like an hour, and he's just blowing me off because I was supposed to be at a certain time. I was there 15 minutes early, and he's still just making me wait. And generals in Mexico are kind of like demigods. They can basically do whatever they want. And if you're on the wrong end of them, and it's a general that's not committed to the rule of law, my general was committed to the rule of law. He was.
How'd you determine that so quickly, that he wasn't someone who was secretly on the take?
I did not know. He tells me, oye, pinche gringo, ¿qué chingas quieres aquí? And he's like, oye, you fucking gringo, what do you want here? And they had looked me up the day previously, which is what they were doing. And I'm like, well, I'm over here. And at the factory in Mexico, I was the manager of machining and engineering operations. So that was my technical charge at that factory, exactly what I was doing. And I told him I'm the manager of machining and engineering operations at this factory. And he's like, I know, I looked you up. And he did. And I'm like, I want to stay in Mexico, General. I've been over here for a while, and I would like to come work for you. And remember, I said I started in May of 2012, and I'd got there the tail end of 2010. So my year running this factory is almost up.
But he's looking at you, and you're, you know, a head honcho in this factory. You have told them, if I'm understanding correctly, like, oh, you know, I have martial arts skills and stuff like that. But you're not like a former Delta commando or anything like that. What made him be like, oh, you're the guy?
This. I'm glad that you brought that up, because there's a platoon that works for him, and he told them, and I was unbeknownst to me at the time, he told them that if he's former military of the United States, we can't take him.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what?
Why?
I didn't know. You know what? I don't know why. I never found that out, but he did say that to one of my platoon brothers, and I never knew why that was, but he did say that. I don't know where that will go in the future or what will become of that, but that was said. It was mentioned to me.
Was maybe, I could be totally off base here, but in this era, you know, 07, 08, 09, who was it? Was it CJNG?
No,
was originally trained by Deltas or something. You know what I'm talking about?
No, it was GAFE, because all of my instructors were GAFE Special Forces. So anyways, I didn't have that, but I did have, here's what I had. So we'll get into the interview, because this is a great point. So, and Ed and I were talking, Ed, I would like to do another video with you, man. So, to where we can really get down to brass tacks about this shit, because I want Americans to understand, and I want Mexicans to have a voice, an operational voice, and not one that just comes from me. I want people just to understand in general. But when I went there, he asked me, what the fuck are you doing here? And he run on my background briefly. And he wanted a demonstration of my fighting abilities, because my initial acoustic, when you get into a Mexican job like that, you get a document, a form that's called an acoustic, ACUSC. And basically what it is it says that this person is going to work for this corporation, is what they call it, governmental corporation, doing exactly this on this date. And that's what they gave me. They let me enter as an instructor. But what he wanted was a demonstration of my martial arts abilities, which ironically I didn't have to give right at that time. I thought I was going to have to. I started to take off my tie and everything. He's like, no, when you get, fighting
roll with the general.
No, fighting three of his guys. And I've gotten a lot of shit about that too. It wasn't three like seasoned martial artists. So it was three of his recruits, and I did have to do that. But before that ever happened, he gave me a job as an instructor in martial arts, doing low-level shit, like a police baton in Spanish. Yeah. Because not everybody, let's face it, Sean Strickland he just mopped a Navy SEAL not long ago.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a Navy SEAL.
I totally believe that.
Yeah, there's a Navy SEAL, because Sean Strickland was talking shit about Navy SEALs, which I've kind of done a little bit too, and I don't want to. But when you're stepping into our side of the border on our job, I'm going to be critical about the stuff that I hear if you don't have direct relevant experience with it, because you should have that. I would never do a video about what it's like to be a Navy SEAL or an Army Ranger, and I'm not being upset. People should talk about it. But there's got to be clear, divided lines. Like, I know what Navy SEALs are. I don't know what it is to be one. Zero operational experience. Right. And with that, in Mexico, it's a different story. I got all the operational experience, and they don't. So it changes. The paradigm changes drastically. So I get a job teaching low-level recruits about how to use a police baton, which is basically a lower block, higher block, wing blocks. And that's about it. And it's called a Paia 24, which
So
is...
he's basically taking a flyer on you. Is that fair to say? Like at this point, he's like, let's take a flyer. We'll give him this little...
Right. Well, I had something that was unique to other people because I thought for a long time, why did he let me in? I was smart enough to manage a factory, so I'm clearly, I've got that. I'm physically fit, so I can do all the running and stuff like that. I got that. I didn't get to qualify with a weapon for a long time. They did not let me close to a weapon. I had to give several courses every day, even while I was doing my basic training of martial arts, to their existing police force and teach exactly new recruits police baton techniques, which is completely in line with all my Kali Eskrima bullshit, which is Filipino martial arts, which is what I was into with the Dog Brothers, which was my initial beef with Ed because of a thing that I asked Dog Brothers basically.
Who were Dog Brothers again?
Can you pull that up?
Yeah.
Dog Brothers. It's a full contact Kali Eskrima organization where we get together once, if not twice a year and fight each other full contact with martial arts weapons.
That's it?
Yeah, but...
wait, no, that's not it.
Yeah, that is it, but you got to look it up. So yeah, so we get together like that first picture right there and we beat the fuck out of each other with full contact batons and shit like that.
Walk as a warrior for all your days. Higher consciousness through harder contact.
So here's a good example. So like you can see my knuckles, right? I got knuckles. And you see how that one's all caved in?
Yeah.
So that was the result of incorrectly doing a roof block and you break your bones, all kinds of shit. So it's Kali Eskrima. So you can see the weapons. So that's right in line with doing police baton training. Sure. Yeah, without a doubt. Because you got 12 angles in Filipino.
Die less often. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. So I get my job because of that, because I've got experience with all this bullshit. And at the same time,
you quit the manufacturing.
Yeah, I went back in March, and in March 9th, 2012, I quit my position at Triumph, and they thought I was crazy. But because it was a nice company, I had enough money to like chill for a little bit. I had stock options. I had all that bullshit, but I pissed it away on a trip going around before I got in uniform for my general because they told me to start May 1st. So me and my wife were like on multi-state.
You got a new wife now. You got the Mexican wife at this point.
Well, we're not married, but yeah, we were seeing each other.
Got it.
Because I'd already been there like a year.
Got it.
And so we're going around and I get my job there. I'm going through basic training and all this shit. And I'm learning, and all of our instructors, all the classroom instructors are all licensed lawyers. So we're learning everything from Mando Unico, human rights, singular command, like everything in Mexico is geared towards a federalized police force that's overseeing everything. And they're doing the same thing here in the United States, slowly but surely. They want to federalize the police force to where there won't be any more city or state police. Everything's just a federal, similar to Gendarmeria or whatever, gendarmes. In Mexico, it's set up like that. And all of our physical and weapons training is all GAFE Special Forces, which at the time I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is this? But
keep that in.
But I'm not really seeing any of it because I'm not allowed to go outside base with weapons and stuff like that. So I'm doing all these courses, doing all my training. I'm living at base. It's 7 days a week. And I finally get the nod from my general to become part of his Occult and go through GATPE training, which is Grupo Aeromóvil de la Táctica Policía Estatal. So we're learning how to like rappel upside down, Australian rappel, CQB, breaching, and all this other shit directly from former GAFE Special Forces soldiers. And this is not just unique to Zacatecas. This is countrywide because of the shit that's going on with the cartel. And since I left, they've changed it. They now call it, Ed's talked about this, every 6 years they get a better, brighter idea on what they're going to name it. Now it's called Fuerza de Reacción Inmediata Zacatecana. But you're the ones that are going out on these missions after cartels, and you're operating in what's called BUMS. Oh, I didn't talk about that either. The Marines in Mexico are all degreed lawyers or accountants.
All of them?
Every single Marine in Mexico has a 5-year degree in either law or accounting or something like that.
I mean, that's kind of cool. Why law and accounting?
It could be any 5-year degree, but you're required to have a 5-year degree or a 4-year degree, depending on whatever the discipline is, to go into the Marines. And this is important because they are people that could have chose a career where they would have done very well for themselves, but they chose to go do something violent. And I'm specifically referring to Marine infantry at this point. And I've worked with them directly, and they're kind of crazy, man. They will scare you. They're not to be toyed with, not at all. That being said, that the Mexican military, the Army, a lot of them only have junior high school educations too. And this dynamic's unique also because a lot of these people are hardworking people that are basically drafted into military service because you have a bag where you pull out a black ball or a white ball, and depending on the color you have, and sometimes it's a 90% retention that they have to go in and do their military training because depending on the needs of the Mexican Army. You have a lot of people that are pulled into that didn't want to be, or a lot of people that didn't have any other opportunity because of their junior high school education. I'm just explaining the way things work in Mexico. Sure. But they're good people, but not highly educated. And so you'll run into that.
Did you find yourself, like, once you went over there on May 1st and you start going through some of these processes and doing all this stuff, did you find a lot of welcoming arms, or a lot of people were like, fuck you, gringo, or a mix of both?
A mix of both. The people from my immediate squad, they knew what I was about because we'd sleep on the concrete floor together, and we're polishing boots until 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we're doing
you're in the shit.
Yeah, no, it's basic training.
Yeah.
And we're cutting grass with machetes all day long. And because of Kali, I would use 2 machetes, so I'd get my area done like super fast and help them. Yeah, no, it's just a bunch of shit that you go through. But a lot of people were very suspicious of while I was there. And also being at that state base, going through that, you're winding up training a lot of the municipal police because they're in charge of training all the police in the state.
They're looking at you like Inteligencia Centrale.
They thought, well, that's when you wind up at the military base in neighboring states. They accused me of being a CIA operative. Yeah, fucking scary as hell. But the municipal police, some of them are corrupt, and they're sitting there trying to get an eye on you. And you know that some of them are corrupt because they're at a local level. You understand that even when you're in training. So there are people that were very much suspicious of me. There were also people that thought that it was super cool that I was there. But I just lost my daughter. She was gone. I didn't want anything to do with my ex. And plus, I'd been there in a while, and I really am digging on this new chick who at that point in time is only my girlfriend. She's wondering whether I love my general more than I love her. So there was that type of dynamic going on. And we discussed it at length on our very first date. I'm like, look, I am here to do this, and that's it. And that was kind of where our relationship was at. So I'm there going through all this basic training and stuff. And finally, they let me start training with weapons. And they're teaching us CQB and all this other stuff. And when I graduated, I went to work directly for my general. I think not only because of the Agape thing, there's like things that went on there with Zeta Cartel hitman that was in charge of the Agape thing. John Cassar. Can you pull up John Cassar?
Yeah. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So it's a high consequence environment, man. People don't really get... Because people go to work for law enforcement, and the reason why I was talking about is between FBI and HRT, you are constantly surrounded by the bad guys. And the very first night we got back to base, we'd actually captured somebody, and they're telling me not to talk because they'll recognize my accent. But then I just figured, I'm like, there's already people that are corrupt here anyways. They already know exactly who I am, so I can say whatever I want. I figured that out immediately. No, go to Google. You guys are gonna love this, and then go John, J-O, Zacatecas or Cartel. Yeah, the very first one. There it is, John Cassar Cartel, and then go to images. Put in Zacatecas in the search bar. Zacatecas. Man, I can't believe that he's not popping up. But John's misspelled.
Tell the story.
So anyways,
find it.
John is a hitman for the cartel, for the Zeta cartel. And you were asking kind of like what cartels were active. The Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación was around, but they were in their infancy.
Right.
And in any event,
the Zetas were, I always get it mixed up. The Zetas were the one that had some Delta Force training, right?
the Zeta ones went to the School of America and were exactly special force operators trained by Americans and were the heavy hitters for the Gulf cartels. They were the ones, the enforcer branch of the Gulf cartel. And then they got tired of working for the Gulf cartel and they're just like,
their own.
Yeah, so this is who we're fighting. And actually, it's ironic that you're talking about that because I actually have a picture somewhere on one of my videos where I'm standing in the street with my weapon. I'm like, looking at one of my partners. He's taking a picture of me. We're in San Luis Potosi State in that picture, which is where they killed it was an ICE agent that they killed down there. Avila.
In Mexico.
In Mexico. And I've taken issue with a lot of the DEA people and stuff like that that act like they're on missions and stuff like that. I've got it right here in
My
hell.
man's got receipts.
No, I do. I got it right here.
Wrong phone.
I'm going to quote it.
Other phone.
What's that?
The back
Here it
phone's
is.
got the receipts.
It does. It's got the receipts. So, of course it changes it as soon as I pull it up. There's a Department of Justice report where they're talking about Avila and the other gentleman. They were both agents working for either the DEA or the Department of Homeland Security in 2011 in San Luis Potosi, and one of them was killed. They were both shot about 100 times, and they're explaining to the cartel in San Luis Potosi that please don't kill us. We're diplomats, and it's just I want to say that because diplomats are allowed to be armed. Mexico arrests suspect in Jaime Zapata killing. Yeah.
This is it? Okay, so this is from the BBC back in February 2011. Mexican troops have arrested an alleged drug gang hitman suspected of killing a U.S. immigration agent last week. Julian Zapata Espinoza told soldiers he and other gunmen opened fire on the agent's car, thinking it belonged to a rival gang, officials said. Agent Jaime Zapata was killed and Agent Victor Avila injured in an ambush on a road near the city of San Luis Potosi. Drug violence is set to be discussed when Mexican President Felipe Calderon visits President Obama next week. Mexican officials presented 6 men to the media during a news conference on Wednesday, accusing them of involvement in the attack on the U.S. agents. These included the alleged leader of the gang, Julian Zapata Espinoza, known as El Piolín or Tweety Bird. 3 women, among them Mr. Zapata's wife and a child, were also detained.
Here we go on ABC News. Despite Zapata and Avila's pleas, I'm quoting abcnews.com. Despite Zapata and Avila's pleas that they were diplomats, the assailants fired nearly 100 rounds into the vehicle using handguns and assault rifles, wounding Avila and killing Zapata, the DOJ said.
Wow.
Direct quote. So that's like what goes on in Mexico when you're working in that. And I mean, those are American government officials and they're still just taking them out. And it's the Zeta cartel, exactly who I'm working against there. And I'm bringing that up because there are things that you can learn during the course of an interview or hanging out for a couple years in a country or whatever. But when you live there and you're working against it every single day, particularly from a Mexican perspective, and you can't even escape it. You are forced to remain there. There are all these dynamics in play when we're talking about reporters and military and corruption and economic opportunity and everything that is Mexico, which is also a great country too, by the way, that it's important to dive into these. And so I'm getting there and I'm learning all of this stuff. When I finally we get back to base, we have this hitman for this cartel with me, and I figure out immediately that your own brothers know who you're at. I've had 3 different occasions where I've personally been offered an opportunity indirectly to go work for a cartel myself.
What was So the first
it was
time,
a coworker. This happened right at the tail end of when I was leaving, right before John Cassara and all this. That was going on right at the end too. I left at the end of 2016. So May 2012 until the very end of 2016. This is my life and this is what I'm living. And also previously with the factory and also afterwards with law school. So I was in Mexico close to 10 years and not on a tourist visa either, living there under an FM3 visa where I'm working the whole thing. I've got an RFC number, corp number, Mexican social. I've got all of it. So you learn a lot in the course of all of this. And when you realize that the cartel is so omnipresent, they're just ubiquitous. Right. They're everywhere that you really just, when you put on a uniform, you're just cognizant of the fact that you signed your death warrant as soon as you put that fucking uniform on, period, no matter who you are, because as soon as they want something from you, if you're not willing to capitulate, you will. Right. And I've got several of my brothers have been murdered and shit like that. So I take it personally. The same way anyone in the American military would take it personally if someone misrepresented or whatever. So I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just want to make sure that we're thorough about all the details.
You got approached by a coworker.
A coworker and his wife who were...
And his wife.
Yeah. Because you work there, you wind up marrying each other. I'm not going to say anything about his wife, but yeah, very attractive woman and not approached in an inappropriate way.
Where were you?
At work. And anyways, they were calling me on my cell phone. And typically, you're not even allowed. My unit, we're not allowed to have cell phones, but we do because you can relay movements, information. In Spanish, you would call it datos or ochos. You can tell them when you're leaving, coming and going, whatever. Just a lot of different things. Who you saw, who you didn't see, what you did. So we're not supposed to have cell phones, but we do.
Right.
And then even when you have cell phones, they might have one SIM card, but you'll carry around another SIM card. So you swap the numbers out, all kinds of shit. So they call me and it flips me the fuck out. And this is, mind you, towards the end.
So we're near 2016 now.
This is the end of 2016, right before Governor Teo is coming to power. And he's telling me, he's like, hey, Frank, I need some help because my buddy was kidnapped. I told him, I'm like, go to our general and have my general take care of me. He's like, no, me, Frank, we're going to go get it. And I'm thinking we're not allowed to carry our primary weapons out of base. That's just completely forbidden. But we are allowed to carry our 9mm with us home wherever we go. So he's telling me he needs my help to go get his friend back that's been kidnapped. I'm thinking, why don't you just go to our general? And then when he's telling me that, no, we just need to go take care of it ourselves, I'm thinking it's not possible to go to the cartel with your little itty bitty pea shooter 9mm, which is like dog shit.
Yeah, this ain't clocking.
No, definitely not, because you just engage an enemy at distance and they're fucking done. Even a Navy SEAL, they got the Chad Wright. I love his channel. They're down there trying to hit shit with a 9mm handgun. He's got a video of it on YouTube. Him and another Army Special Forces guy, and they're having a contest. And they're plinking away trying to hit a plate at maybe, I don't know, I want to say 60 or 70 yards, and they're barely hitting it. But with a long gun, you're hitting that shit every time repeatedly without even trying. So there's that. Plus, it's going through everything that you're standing in front of or behind. So, I mean, it's just that either means that his friend's really not kidnapped and he just wants to get me off and do something with me that's bad for money, whatever. Hold me ransom, God, whatever. Or that he has access to weapons when you think this all the way through, that he has access to weapons that he shouldn't have outside of base, and that we're really going to go get his buddy back, but we're going to do it extrajudicially without my general's oversight or knowledge. Either one of those two is just something that would not happen if it was anything other than being cartel related.
Is that like when you were having that moment on this phone call where you're putting it all together, and obviously you're not saying that right away?
Fuck out of me,
but
dude.
like, that's got to break your heart though too, because you're like, fuck, this is my guy.
The guy, yeah, you know what? The guy actually, he made me do 100 push-ups one time. I forget what it was over. Yeah, I'd lost a bet to him. We were at Zetas.
Not where I thought that was going.
Yeah, no, we were at Zetas, and I'd said something, and it's a base where us and the Mexican army stay at while we're out on patrol. because you'll be out on patrol sometimes for just days on end. And we'd be out there. And the guy's really kind of a badass. He's tall. He's got a mustache. Very put together. Women would consider him handsome. He's got everything clocking in his corner. I mean, the guy's just got from a Mexican perspective, I mean, he hit the lottery. And being a cop in Mexico is a very undesirable, unrespected, hated job because you're viewed to be violent, brutal, corrupted, not something that's, what's the word for it? Venerated? Nah. Respected as it is here in this country. It's just not the same. Mm. But from a police perspective, the guy's a commandante. He's got all the shit going on. So he's got like a really attractive wife. He shouldn't be in this position. He's making more than everybody. And the fact that he's calling me up with this bullshit, it's only that. And it does break my heart because I'm loving my life in Mexico at this point. I am kind of depressed because my general will be going, which means I will also be going. And it was going. My general is going to retire.
So that means you have to retire too because
it's the right thing to do because the new administration is going to come in and they may or may not take issue with a gringo sitting there carrying a Mexican machine gun doing all this shit. And to be clear, be perfectly clear, I've been in the presence of several federal prosecutors, state level prosecutors. I've escorted the federal prosecutor home every night at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Ironically, from the same base that I talked to begin with, the Procuraduría General de la República, I was taking the boss of that and accompanying her from her base over by the airport to her home every night. And I'm not going to divulge where she lives exactly. So everybody's cognizant of the fact that, hey, and they would call me Russo.
Russo?
Yeah, Russo, because I speak Russian and all that shit. So everybody's completely clear of exactly who I am working there. Yeah, so it's not like it's something that's not known, but is it permissible per law? Yes, but barely. And when AMLO came in, who's the president just before Scheinbaum, the first thing he did was change the Constitution to where now you have to be a Mexican by birth in order to be an agent or a police or anything.
So that writes you out.
100%. Gotcha. So it was the correct thing to do to leave. Plus all this stuff was going on with John Cassar and everything else.
What came of, you said this was there were 3 times you were approached?
Yeah, they called me.
And he called me. The story you just told, to be clear, was with the phone call with the friend was the first time.
Right. He calls me, flips me the fuck out, man. I'm in love with my wife deeply.
This is towards the end of your time.
Towards the end of my time. My wife and I have now been together for a few years. I block his number because I'm like, whoa, I don't want anything to fucking do with that, man. And you got to bear in mind, can you pull up Indice Paz Zacatecas?
Indice Paz Zacatecas.
Yeah, INDICE PAZ Mexico. Just put Mexico, not Zacatecas. And you can see it, and you'll pull up the images on it, and you can see quickly the type of place that Mexico is. It's a very violent place. So when something like that's going on, no, it's INDICE. And then Paz, P-A-Z. Oh, here we go. Go back. Go back to what you had before. Pull this one up right here. So you can see, this is just 2023. So this basically tells the security levels. And Ed's over here in Baja, California. Okay, yeah, so I'm over here. So this is Ed up here in Baja, California, kind of separated. They got the border zone. It's got a different exchange rate from the rest of the country.
Can you move a little bit this way so people can see it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Deep's already got it. You're good. You're good.
So just a basic geography lesson in Mexico. This portion of Mexico where Ed's from is basically its own separate entity because of the Gulf of California or the Sea of Cortez. This zone up here along the top, which is going to be, I think it's 5 states, Baja California, Sonora, Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León, and just a little bit of Tamaulipas. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states, but barely Tamaulipas, is the border zone that has its own exchange rate, and the people there typically speak English and Spanish and are there's a high population of deportees. The portion down here, which is Quintana Roo, not Roo, Yucatan, Campeche, Tabasco, Chiapas. These right here are basically the southern tourist region. They're heavily jungle. But these states right here, Oaxaca, Guerrero, and Michoacan, are very poor and have a high level of importing drugs from Colombia and this type of stuff. This is why I'm standing up giving this thing, because you guys got to understand what's going on. Where I was at was working in Zacatecas, the Jalisco. You can see how the states all overlap, San Luis Potosi. So when you're driving across all this stuff, you're cruising through 4 or 5 different states in a day. And the Cartel de Jalisco, the Nueva Generación, is obviously right here. You can see Jalisco. Yep. Zacatecas is red, even though Jalisco, Nueva Generación is from Jalisco. But why? Because it's not controlled by any one cartel. So all of this stuff's going on with the fighting from the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, the Zeta Cartel. So Zacatecas, as you can see on camera, is bright red.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of shit going down. And anyways, and the reason why is because it's not controlled by just one cartel or another. That has changed.
It's basically a hot zone of just like where they all kind of meet at the head.
Yeah, and everyone wants to control it because of Highway 54 and Highway 45, which go through on diagonal trajectories, one towards Coahuila and Saltillo, and the other one going up north towards Sonora and through Sinaloa. So they've got this dynamic going on there. So when I'm talking about like what goes on in Mexico, you have to understand the different portions of Mexico and how that factors into cartel activity to understand the cartels and what's going on. With Ed's portion up in Baja California, also red, also dangerous, but a very high level of drugs, fentanyl to be specific, precursor drugs, not methamphetamine, some methamphetamine stuff, but since then it's mostly fentanyl that's coming in from China and making its way north through that entry, primarily through the eastern edge of Tijuana, or not Tijuana, Baja California and Sonora. And if you've ever been through Sonora, I thought I was going to be killed by the Mexican military in Sonora because I had on Mexican military boots. I had 2 pairs. And they asked,
you thought the military was going to kill you because you had that?
Yeah, they thought I was cartel. I was going to Tijuana.
Why would they think you're cartel if you're wearing Mexican military boots?
Because you're not allowed to have that at all. It's for
you're in it.
Yeah, I'm in it, but I'm wearing them and I'm not at work at the time and I'm just wearing and they're like, so whoa, who the fuck is this guy? They thought I was working for the other side. Yeah. And I lived in Tijuana for a little bit too. So I was going over there to check some stuff out. Anyways, it's a violent place, but most of the stuff that goes on in that portion of the country is all stuff that are precursor drugs that are brought in from China in the shipping ports that are over there. Most of the stuff that's coming in from Oaxaca, Michoacan, and Guerrero are all going to be drugs from Colombia, Bolivia, or Ecuador, which are the primary exporters of coca and even heroin products. There's a lot of heroin production that goes on internally to Mexico, but where I was at, the drug cartels are primarily concerned with controlling the flow of weapons going south or moving product north through because of the 2 highways that go through the different sections of the country.
How, after like joining and initially teaching some, martial arts type things, and then going through all the training yourself, and first of all, let's take a step back for a minute. How did you become the general's personal bodyguard? Because it doesn't start that way. And
no,
how
it
quickly
doesn't.
did you become, like, was that by 2013 you're his bodyguard?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Because can you pull up my YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So you'll see on the very top of my YouTube channel, there's going to be a date on that car if the formatting allows it to be seen on this computer on the television. Is it there? It's not, but if I go in here, look down here, there's going to be a thing. This card right here, this is called a Carta de Portación. And going down, there's going to be a date that says 2013. I can pull it up on my phone right now and show you. But yeah, and this has my Arma Corta, Clase Escuadra, calibre 9mm marca Glock, which I hate. I can't stand Glocks because 2 of my partners have shot themselves with them. And then the other one is Arma Larga, which is what I was talking about that we didn't have, what my partner was calling me. I'm like,
the one with the cartel.
Right. So that's our primary weapon, which is clase rifle automático calibre 223 marca Beretta, which is a Beretta ARX 160. Great weapon. Yeah. Love that thing. But anyway, so yeah, by 2013, yeah, I'm definitely out getting in shit with my general.
And what kinds, you know what? I got to run to the bathroom real quick. But
yeah,
when
go ahead.
Come back, I want to know like what he had you do in day one, like, because what he's actually getting into that would require you
I'll
to be
I'll definitely get into
the tip of the spear, you know? Or
well, no, my general, yeah, he's very up there.
All right, we'll be right back.
Cool.
All right, we're back. So what I was saying, like as far as tip of the spear, I should have said it more like top of the vortex here, right? Like he's the commander and then he's got all these people below him, but he's actually going out and doing a lot of this stuff and you're like his right hand protecting him and watching his six.
I go out and do everything. Well, okay, so as I stated earlier, we weren't technically Policía Estatal Preventiva. We had different cartas de comisión where we were state police operate within the state, obviously, the state police, but we were allowed to travel throughout the entire country because I was attached to my general. Sometimes he will have business doings or operations that may go outside of what the territorial limits of the state of Zacatecas are. So we're allowed to go everywhere. And in addition to that, Ed Calderon has spoken about before, we operate with what's called Base de Operaciones Mixtas, which is going to be Federal Preventative Police, Mexican Army, sometimes Mexican Marine Infantry, and also us. And everybody that worked for my general, we were called Secretaria. And I don't know what it was with all of my brothers, but every single one of them was former military, whereas a lot of the other state police were not prior military. Everybody that worked for my general was military. And so, and I mean everybody, his entire command staff, everyone that was on the platoon, there was 2 platoons of us that worked for him. Everybody with the exception of myself was former military. The thing that I had that nobody else had is I had a completely blank sheet. So there was no way I was corrupted in any way by the cartel. And that was smart because I always wondered that for a long time, but that was what I had. And I was proficient at what I was capable to do. Grew up my entire life shooting, grew up fighting, very good with all of that. And I was intelligent, had decent command of the Spanish language. So, I mean, I had all this stuff that was good for me. I think also he pulled me in. I was doing very well teaching different recruits and whatnot and had a great work ethic because we were there 7 days a week. And I mean, our judo dojo, when I'm down there, like teaching them grappling techniques and commerce and all this bullshit in order to gain control over a resisting subject, is we call it Campo de Tiro. It's our shooting range, and it's all gravel. So all day long, you're just slamming each other on gravel, fucking each other up, and it was demanding. I mean, it really hurt me a lot. Let me get rid of that. But I put up with it because I had nothing left. My daughter was in Russia. I'd quit my job, and there was no way I was going to fail. So he watched my work ethic for a long time. And when you go into typical police, work 24 hours on, 24 hours off, unless they get sent to some place like Villa de Coast or some other place where I've talked about we got in a gun battle on Villa de Coast. When you're there, because it's so far away that in Zacatecas, I want to say it's probably 300, 350 miles north to south diagonally. So it's conceivable in the capital where the base is centrally located. So it's conceivable that you're going to be out quite a ways. And so to save on fuel costs, you'll go out to these places and have a base out there, set up camp, and you'll be there. Normal police will man those, but us working for my general, we would work 43 hours straight with 5 hours off, 365 days out of the year. In fact, can we time out?
For what? To look something up?
Yeah.
We don't have to time out when we do that.
I don't want
Steve's here. It's all good.
Yeah, but I don't want people on the. No, okay. So, anyways, there's a government website where I can substantiate. I sued my general because of overtime and stuff like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
I liked the law's a weapon, dude. So, anyways, in Mexico, you're not paid overtime. So I sued my general. And anyways, there's
That relationship went south.
No, we actually have a very good relationship. No, you know what? My general, he's very much a, because he had it coming. He deserved it. And my general's like that. If he does something and you don't like it, as long as you're not disobeying an order. But if it's something, for example, one day, one of us backed one of the patrol units into a tree and jacked up the tailgate on it because he left the tailgate down and he wasn't paying attention. He jacked up the tailgate. My general pulled it out of his paycheck. But if you were able to prove with a lawyer in a court of law that you didn't do it, and then he wound up paying you that plus your lawyer's fees, he would do it. That's the kind of guy my general is. He owed me the money legitimately, and I won, and I can prove it online if anybody wants to think for a second.
They had lawsuits down there.
They do. They do. So anyways, what I was going to do was pause it and show you the exact website.
That's okay. We don't need it. I believe you.
So anyways, it's there. My general would go to typical day. We would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We would put on our gear. We'd run 5 kilometers every single day of the week with the exception of Sunday, including my general. He's doing this also with our stuff in the dark. And then after that, he would go have his breakfast, do his emails or whatever. We're out showering, shaving. Our uniforms have to be immaculate because we represent our general. But we're going to be out doing tactical shit too because we're all got pay, which is clearly seen on one of the back pictures where I'm standing in front of the unit. You can see the back patch, and it's GATPE. That's what that is. So after he's done with breakfast, the commander from the Onceava Zona Militar, or the 11th Military Zone, is going to come over. The head of the Federal Preventative Police is going to come over. The Marine commander from their mobile military base may come over. They're going to have a little powwow about
a chairman of the Joint Staffs kind of meeting.
We figure out what's going on because you are operating in a place where multiple cartels are active. Your operation could be detrimental to another operation that's going on by another group. So they do everything together. And as soon as you figure out what that is, you'll do things like go down, hang out in a school all night, sleeping, waiting for people to get back from wherever it is they're coming from, and then pounce on them at 9 o'clock in the morning right in their house and go get them as they're coming in.
At a school?
Yeah. We don't have a base down there. This is a place called Ciudad Cuauhtémoc, which is in southern Zacatecas. There was an operation that we did. Fuck it. So there was an operation where we stayed at the school all night and we're waiting for these fucking people to get back, man. And anyways, they finally come in the morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, right when those people were coming back. We went in and swooped on their little ranchito, their little ranch house, and fucking got those guys, dude. And
did you ever work, when you have all these different heads of these different commissions and law enforcement organizations coming over for these meetings, how are you not, or the general, not paranoid all the time of having one Tweety Bird leak in there, one person who's working for the wrong team who's now going to be sharing all the intel?
I wasn't privy to that level of it. As far on a personal level, I was constantly fucking paranoid for my own well-being. I mean, you do go down there and you get into it like you're prepared to die, but also at the same time, you do hope you're going to live. But you're there constantly. Just my perspective, I never knew if some cartel guy was going to try to get me at home, if they were going to arrest me and stick me in a fucking foreign prison, if one of my own brothers was going to kill me, because every single person that works for our platoons is all military. None of them are like normal civilian people that decide, hey, I want to become a cop. And I do want to say, before this conversation goes any further, if you were to take a team of Navy SEALs and stick them in North Korea and they were supposed to go do a mission, I'm going somewhere with this because this is important. And some North Korean civilians happen upon them, but these Navy SEALs have to fulfill their mission, whatever it is, installing spy equipment, whatever. And this team of civilians comes over, they see the Navy SEALs, they can inform on them and cause mission failure. So the Navy SEALs are forced to, eradicate this group of civilians or do whatever it is that they're going to do with them. And everything in the special ops community and their missions are all top secret, but we never talk about the human rights violations from an American Special Forces perspective. But my question to the general audience and even to you is what do you think a Navy SEAL's behavior is going to be if their mission is compromised by a group of civilians that had nothing to do with it, which are clearly non-combatants? I don't know what the Navy SEALs would do. I was never a Navy SEAL, but I am going to say that I'm using that analogy or that metaphor kind of as just a descriptor of the sensitivity of what could potentially happen. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that goes on outside of the purview of the public eye that you have to be ultra careful about the way that you represented it or have it come across, even if nothing happened, which nothing did happen, because the appearance of impropriety carries very heavy consequences. And I'm bringing it up from an American perspective because we all know that there are civilian casualties, even with Obama and his use of drones over in the United States, where there are civilian casualties, they're non-combatants, and they decide to take the shot anyways. And when it's public knowledge, they just write it off as, well, we needed to do that. There's collateral damage and it's acceptable because this is who we got. But when you're on a small little mission like that, and you're doing something in secret, there might be something that an individual operator by himself decides, hey, you know what? Right. So when you're talking about anything that goes on in Mexico, even with the guys in Ciudad de Cuauhtémoc, it automatically means consequences that may be levied against myself or my wife or my family in Mexico. Consequences legal that might have the appearance of impropriety, which could provoke an investigation that wasn't there previously. There's so many little things to get into when you really have worked down there and you've got all this stuff going on that you need to be aware of it. And the audience should too, because that is going to predicate whether you talk about something in great detail or not. So when you're talking about that, they have their little commissions that they've been doing. These people have known each other since basic training, have gone to the same military school together. It's called Colegio Heroico Militar. It's in El DF. They've all got little, like my rings, they all got little.
You got some ice right there.
It's bling, dude. My bling. Well, I dig on Indians, man. And this one I just like because of the colors. It's got some other stuff going on. But they've all got their little class ring from Colegio Heroico Militar, which is to say that they have their own fraternity. They're very used to dealing with each other. And by the time they become generals, they've been vetted to great lengths. For example, it's basically illegal in Mexico to have what's called a cuerno de chivo or an AK-47 because it's viewed to be the preferred weapon of the bad people. So you're not allowed to own this weapon in Mexico. However, several Mexican generals or even colonels I've seen with them keep one of these as a trophy, and I've got pictures of it too to prove it. So there are places where they bend the law, but you have to understand what's entailed in capturing one of these to get it as a trophy to begin with. You are disarming somebody, probably unaliving that person, which goes to say that they've proven themselves to each other. So there are things that you need to be careful of, predominantly from a civilian aspect to it. The military is much more vetted than the civilian area is because just of the seriousness or the gravity of what's entailed. Mm-hmm. You're not doing investigative policing. You're out getting people when they're not being cooperative. In fact, to be honest, most of the defensive techniques or the takedown techniques to control resisting subjects is a non-starter because you're not getting into that type of thing. You're not arresting people that want to be arrested. And I mean, even from an American's perspective, you're arresting or attempting to take into custody someone that's probably going to take it to a lethal level on a use of force continuum. And that's just the way law enforcement's played in Mexico, which goes back to the FBI HRT thing, the comment that I made earlier. It's in no way a slam against American police. They're definitely ass kickers, no doubt about it. Probably trained to a better level than we are in a lot of different disciplines. But in Mexico, this isn't that. It's more like a war zone because that's what it is. So are they paranoid? They've been vetted pretty much ad infinitum at that point. So they trust each other, have worked with each other for several years, even before they got their position at the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública. And generals in New Mexico are also rotated around every year or two to prevent them from getting a group that is loyal to them to avoid any type of military coup.
Right. But even within all these different generals and all these different places, as you've pointed out a bunch of times today, and we've heard it on a lot of other podcasts with guys who cover this, you do have leaks in the ship. You do have people in powerful positions who are bought off and secretly or not so secretly.
I'm not denying
working for the cartel. Oh, no, I know you're not working for the cartels. I'm just saying it makes the job for like your general almost impossible because you're playing whack-a-mole, but your own people are whacking you back and
it's 100%.
Going behind your back.
You know, we're not supposed to go to sleep at night. So I would say that there's a reason why there's only 2 platoons of us that work for my general. And the reason is because we're in such direct proximity to my general and his family and visiting dignitaries. For example, we've protected the Dalai Lama, Secretary of National Defense, Vice President of Mexico. You'll protect all these different people. And you can't trust a lot of people. So you are forced to work 43 hours straight, 5 hours off, because you don't have enough people that you can trust to take care of all these people or to keep tight lips about any of the operations that you're going to be doing when you're taking down people that are need to be taken down.
You had said in our previous episode conversation, like we started to like kind of preview it because it came up in some other context. And I said we'd put it to the side, but you talked about coming across the mass grave in Valparaiso with your general. Valparaiso. What happened and how did you have intelligence that was going to be there, or was it a shock to find it?
No, actually someone else found it on a local level and we went out there to secure a perimeter for it.
And who did it?
I don't know. That was federal. That would be a function of the Policía Federal Ministerial would come over and they would do that. But because it's within the state territorial limits of Mexico, Policía Estatal Preventiva are the very first ones to respond to anything, even before the municipal police or anything, because that's your technical jurisdiction. So anything that goes on in that state, even if it's a federal crime, the first ones that are going to be securing the scene are going to be Policía Estatal Preventiva.
When you came upon that, obviously you're seeing dead bodies, but what are we talking? How big a grave and
it hasn't even been unearthed. You have to excavate the entire thing. There's body parts sticking out of the ground. So rain will start washing stuff away, and then things will be revealed if they didn't bury it deep enough, or it could have been a fresh kill. I don't know. I never ever, and I did go down to become a Policía Ministerial and an agent for them, but that was after I had already left my general service, and it's also a completely different thing, and the dynamics are totally different. And because it's a civilian police force, my general's police force being mostly military or very militarized, they don't like each other. Right. And so when I went to that interview, I was asking the comandante, he asked me, he's like, well, how many years have you been doing this now? And I'm like, ya unos. I'm like, I've been here for a while. And he told me, pues ya estás involucrado, which means like, you're more than involved now. You're completely a part of this. But also what he was saying when he said that is he was saying that you work for your general. He's a military person. I'm over here doing my thing, and I'm not a military person. They call them Judas because they betray people. Extremely sketchy people, very dangerous, which is also kind of the thing that I wanted to get into because it was kind of like, all right, cool, this is interesting. But sharing intelligence is not something that's going to really happen between those because of that rift, which is not something that most people would be aware of, is the complete rift, and not just the rift between state and federal preventive police and state and federal ministerial police, but also the Marines and the Army. There are a lot of rivalries going on within all of that, to where everyone could be a good actor. There could be no bad people, and they still might not like you. And it might be deadly. Well, good actor, I'm using that in the Mexican sense of the term. Not overtly corrupt, not working for a cartel, but still, hey, fuck you because fuck you. And it's it's a very aggressive environment to work in, which is obvious. I mean, it's a cartel, but aggressive from a professional sense also, not from an enemy combatant sense, but even internally between different corporations, the cooperation's just not there. And there is a little bit of that here in the United States. Is the FBI going to share information with the CIA and vice versa? But there, it's like Emerald, kick it up a notch. I mean, it's just different.
It's a mess. Yeah. Now, I'm just thinking of the years where you're doing this from once you really start working as the personal bodyguard for the general. This is 2013 to 2016. These are those last years before Chapo gets finally fully captured. And
right.
Everything is when he escaped from prison.
So,
and there's this crazy shit going on. Like, it's kind of nuts because it's not that long ago, but this is a whole different era.
Right. Well, so yeah, it is. It is and isn't true. Like they had the transit cop and his wife that they tortured to death and left in the middle of Cinco Señores. And that was Zeta Cuarenta had something to do with that.
What happened there?
There was a transit cop that was selling drugs and had, I need to point this out because a lot of people have asked me, Mark Denny, the head of the Dog Brothers, one time told me that you're a pigeon flying amongst eagles. And we don't have a very good relationship, he and I. And I take issue with it because he's got no real badass, great martial artist, zero experience working in Mexico. And much more gifted at martial arts than I am. But he didn't really know what he's talking about. But there is some truth in it. He asked me one time, he's like, how is it you're not dead? And he's like, I don't know if it's genius, you posting all this shit all over Facebook, which I was at the time at my old account.
Oh, you were while you're doing all this?
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
Here we are today. Out in fucking Tijuana.
Well, I was right to do that. And the reason why is because I already am clearly not Mexican the way other Mexican people are Mexican. My Spanish, even though I speak it fluently at a college level, still has a heavy accent. They know exactly who the fuck I am. They know where I live. They've been to my house. They've passed by. There's Gulf Cartel that live right down at the end of the street. In fact, one day I ran into them and I almost stopped because they were in a red truck, all with radios and body armor on. And I thought they were police at first. They looked just like it. I was going to stop and I'm like, fuck. And I was in my Ford Explorer. I have a Ford Explorer in Mexico. And I kept driving. And I'm just so happy that I didn't stop because if I had stopped, it could have really came out bad. But they fooled me at first. I thought they were ministry police and I was going to stop and be like, hey, what's up? But they were not. And the reason why I know they're not is because every unit that works for the ministry police is a white pickup truck, a white Ford. And this was a red Ford. They don't have, and I know this because I see these units every single day when I'm going back and forth to either the federal or state investigative police or ministerial police. So there are little details, and Ed's spoken about before. You'll come across a military checkpoint. Notice that one of the dudes is wearing tennis shoes, just little details. And you're like, fuck. And it's an immediate firefight because they're all armed. And they're pretending like they're military, and there's only one way a situation like that's going to go. So,
and you said you guys were in a bunch of firefights too, right?
Yeah, we've been in a few. Yeah, I've been in probably 12.
Like to be in a fucking cartel firefight in Mexico?
They're different. It depends. It depends on how you get to it too, because sometimes you have time to process it. Like the one in Jerez, the first one I went to in Jerez, I had time to process that shit. Because we already knew what was going on before we even went there.
Who was there? Huh? Who was there and what was going down?
Yeah, who was there? There was the Gulf Cartel, and they were down there. And I know people give me shit because they say that the Gulf Cartel doesn't have a presence in Zacatecas. But let's just start with the fact that the Zeta Cartel came from the Gulf Cartel, and they're both operating in the same area. And per that map, they're all fighting over the same territory to move shit around. So it was the Gulf Cartel. They were down there and they had started a firefight with a neighboring cartel that was gone by the time we got there, but they were holed up in a house and they had 3 different bodies. And by the time I got there, it was just ending. And I was advancing in the middle of the street. I get yelled at by a Mexican lieutenant colonel for advancing in the military street because I was completely fucking green. I didn't have any cover. Got yelled at, but when we got inside the house, there was 3 dead bodies that were there that were beheaded. Well, actually, it was 4, and there was one of them that was a woman, 3 guys, and it was just crazy that they did not even spare the woman. So you're talking about like this type of shit that you'll see, but a more active kinetic gunfight that we got in was in Villa de Coast, which I've spoken about on Johnny, because it's the most memorable one that stands out to me. And they'll do shit like, there was the Ciudad Cuauhtémoc one where we're getting them out of their ranch house. But there'll be shit like you'll be coming back and they're like shooting at you on the bridges and shit like that. And you'll try to go around and they're not there. So when we're talking about gunfight, how heavy is it? The Villa de Coast one was like gnarly because we get there and the driver, the chauffeur, took a shot right into the bulletproof glass and it shattered his crystal. And so we're coming up on him. So this is like happening to us directly. It's not something we're responding to. What's it like? When you got time to think about it, you have time to process it, and you're like, fuck. It's a lot scarier because you know you're going to go and get into some shit. Sorry if I got off track about your question, but I'm trying to be thorough. When something happens spontaneous like that, it's a completely different animal. You're just like, fuck, and you're in it immediately. That one in particular, we went through and I found out that my fusil automático ligero that I have, which is a great weapon, is fucking horrible for clearing fincas unless you have a paratrooper barrel with a shorter barrel. And there's just these little details that you'll be thinking about. You're going through it and you're trying to make sure that when you're slicing a pie around a corner or whatever, which is I'm putting in American terms, I learned all this shit in Spanish. But when you're clearing something or despejar algo, and you're trying to go down a corridor in pitch black, and you don't even have a light on your weapon because that's basically not something that we do down there on our battle rifles. And I challenge anybody that's got battle rifles that's out there doing that. We don't have lights on them. So you're going through a finca and basically what's pitch black. And a finca is an unfinished, like little brick adobe unfinished house that may be more than one story. So you don't even know if the stairs are there, and you're there in pitch black, and you will have mag light that you have in your hand and holding your battle rifle, but the little things that you'll be thinking about going through, hoping they don't grab your barrel and shit like that. And yeah, I got shot in the chest that night. I took a round laterally.
Were you wearing a vest?
Yeah, I was wearing a vest. In fact, I got a picture of it. Some people giving me shit. I got a picture. I got tons of pictures. I post them all online. Go check them out. Where I got hit in the chest, and it didn't go all the way through, but it did spin me around, and it took another round in my steel shield right below me. And then there was a round that hit the driver that shattered the whole crystal. Oof. So when something's happening kinetically like that or spontaneously, you don't really have a time to be afraid of it. You just figure out about how the fuck am I going to survive this? How am I going to kill them? And make sure that you just try to not get hit or shot. So you get cover and stuff like that. So I hit the ground. I've got all these metal fall rifle magazines on my chest. I'm just breaking one down to you so you can kind of understand the thought process because we're being shot at. And we got to go through and we got to clear all these fucking fincas because we don't know how many of them there are. It's in the middle of the night. It's probably like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And we're out by where we have this police base where we go out there all the time. And so I hit the ground. I would always carry 220 rounds because with a fall battle rifle, you don't want to use 30 round magazines. You want to use 20 round magazines because the spring tension on the magazines is so strong on the 30 round magazines that a lot of times it'll cause the weapon to jam. So a 20 round magazine is a lot better. But when you're using a fall magazine, this is something that you'll learn in the course of these things. When you hit the ground because you're being shot at, your magazine on the front of your plate or your tack vest, the fingers on the stamp metal will deform. So when you chamber a magazine and try to rack around, it jams. And so then what happens is you're getting shot at and you're trying to cycle through magazines, trying to get a chamber of fucking round, and it won't. So you finally get to your back magazines that haven't been jammed into the ground, and that's what works. And so anyways, you're so just hopped up on adrenaline. You're not afraid, but also I found it being a lot scarier to the legal or potential consequences of working with cartel or being arrested because they don't like you being there than I did being in a firefight. Because most of the time when you're in a firefight, you don't even have time to think about it. You react. I don't know what other people's reactions to that are or what, but that was mine.
It's kind of crazy though, because again, it's not like, obviously like you're a rough and run kind of guy. You've seen a lot of shit in your life, but you weren't coming, as we've said a million times, from like a special forces background or military background or anything like that. Now you find yourself fighting with the Mexican military in gunfights with the cartels. Like, are you fearing death?
No, definitely no. You don't have time to think about that shit.
Yeah, but have you ever feared death? Like, do you think about it when you're not in a gunfight? Because you know this shit's gonna come up. You know you're statistically
when I first got there.
One.
When I first got there, I did. When I first got there, I was afraid of getting shot in the head or afraid of having my head cut off. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's gonna see this. My potential enemies are gonna see this in Mexico, and I've said it where I'm at with it before. I would hate to be tortured to death, man. It would be something that I would suffer even potentially a month or longer. But in the end, they're not going to send me any place that I'm not already going. And if that's the fate that my God wants me to suffer, so be it. And I really mean it. And my enemies know I mean it because I showed up for years in that same uniform, knowing we've found people right across the street from base with radios, radioing our position, our location, our movements and everything. So you know that you're constantly under the eye of the enemy. And when you get to Mexico, everybody's a tourist. And I've talked about this about other people that have podcast channels related to the subject. You figure out you're not a tourist. You become not a tourist once you find out that every single person on a corner is someone that's working for the cartel. You find out when you get their phones and you're looking through their messages and there's no messages in their phone every single time. So if I open my phone, I open your phone. We go over and we gaffle him up because he's on a corner, and we get your phone and we look in it right now. Be honest. Are there any messages in your phone right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. I got them right here. There's a whole bunch of my darling wife, very first one.
I like that name for your wife.
Oh man, my wife is fucking awesome, man. I can't wait till you meet her. When you get these people though, and they got phones. And in Mexico, they got what's called saldo. So they all got to put pre-charged money on their phone to get it to work, usually, especially on these prepaid phones. So they'll have money available on it because they're using a prepaid phone that's not attached to a hard account, which would have your name on it, my name on it. So they have the ability. The devil's always in the details, Julian. It always is. So when they got the money to put on these phones that aren't attached to any account, first of all, why isn't there a name on that account? Why don't you have something with Telcel or something else? One. Two, knowing that it's a burner phone or a prepaid phone, why aren't there any messages on it when I know that you got credit on your phone so you can easily message somebody? And every single time you meet one of these fucking people, and I've talked about it on Johnny Mitchell's before, like when the interrogations, and by interrogations, I'm not talking about torture. I'm talking about you're just asking them questions.
Yeah,
and
you would never,
I wouldn't do it. That would be illegal. It would be,
I believe, I'm fucking.
I know, but I mean, because there is shit like that goes on, man. But you're asking them the same thing, and the questions are always the same. And every time you pick up one of their cell phones never have messages on it, unless.
Side check?
No. Unless it's at the tail end of a gunfight or something like that. And then you get their cell phones and shit. And then there's messages in there. Yeah. So it's like, whoa, what's different? Each one of us, just Joe Civilian, all magically have fucking cell phones with messages on each one. How many messages?
Hundreds. Yeah, thousands.
Me too. And in these ones, there's not even one.
So you know.
They're on a corner, quickly. Standing there. They're pud in their hand. It's only one thing. So there are a lot of things that you come to learn during the course of your work. And, I'm going to take a swipe at DEA and ATF to say they're working. I'm just going to say it the way it is because we're being honest. Drug Enforcement Agency, ATF, and the FBI, when they're working, and Department of Homeland Security, when they're working in Mexico, because one of them was just on Mike Ritland the other day. They're not out running and gunning. There's another guy I just came across his channel this morning, Larry something or other, where they're talking about bringing truckloads of weapons into Mexico to go conduct a mission. First of all, we're better at it than the United States is as far as a law enforcement personnel perspective goes because we do it every single fucking day in direct proximity to the same people that people say they're fighting from abroad, and we live there. And this is what we do. It's our bread and butter. That being the case, The DEA agents, from a diplomatic perspective, are not allowed to go unaliving foreigners. It would create a huge diplomatic mess. They are allowed to carry weapons for personal defense. That is true, because as a diplomat, you cannot technically break a law in a foreign country. You are allowed a wide range of latitude in what you're allowed to do. But that does not mean Mexican politicians want to go explaining to Mexico why Americans are in Mexico unaliving people under American authority. In direct contradiction to, at least I've got the screenshot in here. I was looking it up earlier. I think it's something like 7 different articles of the Constitution, to where everyone has been deprived their day in court, their right to life, and a whole bunch of other Mexican laws, to where they're guaranteed the right to be judged by a Mexican jury or a Mexican judge, and Americans cannot fulfill that requirement of being able to guarantee any delinquent or felon or cartel member their day in court and the rights afforded to them, their humanitarian rights, I might add, under a Mexican court of law. So when you have these people in their YouTube channels, they're talking about they're running and gunning and doing all these missions in Mexico, I deal that with a great amount of skepticism, and that is why. Anyone that wants to look it up are free to look up the Mexican relevant codes, but there are several federal codes and constitutional codes in Mexico that prohibit exactly that. I was allowed to do what I did in Mexico as an American, but living there as a Mexican because I was working directly for a Mexican authority under the scope and purview of Mexican law, period.
It's very different from other stuff you hear. Like a lot of the stuff, the running and gunning you talk about that we hear from different people on the internet, I share a lot of your skepticism too, just naturally. It's nothing personal, but it's like, who are you doing it with? Why are you there? On what capacity are you actually able to do it? What kind of proof can you put behind it? Like, I've never met a guy, like an American.
There's only 3 of us in the whole country, man,
who went down there and did this kind of thing, you're saying?
Jonathan Casaro was Special Forces from Colombia. Somebody in the comment section is not impressed with Colombian Special Forces. Be that as it may, here or there, he wound up in Zacatecas, entered as an instructor, wound up becoming a hitman for the Zeta drug cartel, and was also in charge of the GOTPay unit that I was working for. Right. There's that. There was a Polish guy that was in charge of training Mexican Federal Preventative Police in Ciudad de Mexico, and there was myself. Only 3 of us, all 3 of us with all of our documents cleared directly by Sedena, which is Mexican Army, that I'm aware of working in the country. During the course of my investigation into Ed Calderon, because I wanted to verify whether or not and I did come back positive that what he's saying is true in as much as
it's legit.
But I was looking into it, and during the course of that, I spoke to Navy SEALs. Jeff Bramstedt, to be particular, I've got the phone call recorded regarding Ed's jumping at Skydive San Diego. And I was talking to him about who signed Ed's jump certificate, but Jeff Bramstedt relayed to me that there is a Navy SEAL in Mexico working or doing security potentially. And it's interesting because if he's doing security there, he's doing it solely. And this is an ex-Navy Special Forces operator validated by another Navy Special Forces operator.
It's pretty good.
As good as it gets. Telling me, and I've got his number somewhere too. He put me in touch with him. Working doing private security in Mexico, which does jive. You as a private person in Mexico, even potentially being a foreigner, could potentially get a weapon and be licensed to do it, because I clearly was doing what I was doing. But are you out conducting counter cartel missions on a fucking convoy with a general and other operatives? Definitely fucking not. No way.
It's different.
It's different. And at the beginning of all this, I stated that I started my channel because I want every American or every Mexican to have clarity into what goes on specifically, which means I can't sensationalize what I was doing. Not everything I was doing was fucking high speed. I was there for years and only like 12 fights. But in that time, which is to say that every morning the general gets up and every morning they're going through their interviews and stuff. You're not taking people down constantly. So at the end of 5 years or 10 years of me telling my stupid stories on YouTube, I'm going to run out of stories. So I'm just going to say my story once. It is what it is. and then we can go from there.
Yeah, and look, people are going to take it or leave it with what it is, but I appreciate you saying that because it's no different, even in a crazy high-stakes environment like that. It's like a lot of other things you hear about with different special forces jobs or government jobs in different countries around the world. They always talk about how it's, boring, routine until boom. That one moment of like, oh, it's fucking on.
There's a lot of shit that's happened, man. I got stung in the face one night by a scorpion, dude. Yeah.
You got stung by a scorpion?
I got stung by a scorpion,
God.
man. Yeah, we're out getting these guys, and I'm creeping up on this place in Zacatecas and Durango in particular. There are a large amount of emperor scorpions, man. There's a bunch of them. You can't really see them in the dark, and at least it wasn't one of the white ones because the white ones are the venomous ones. And I'm crawling up, and man, right out of nowhere, I didn't even know it, man, but I got stung, and I got home.
What does that feel like?
Dude, it fucking hurt like hell, and I couldn't even say anything because I was in dread fear, man, because I'm like creeping up. And I get stung in the fucking face. My face balloons up, man. Oh, yeah. Just little things that happen, but
how do you – I've been thinking of this all day, Dave, because like you went down there and saw it firsthand and how widespread it is just everywhere across the country. How do you create a 20, 30, 50-year plan to maybe not even fully eliminate the cartels, but eliminate the heavy, dense, wide-reaching influence they have in Mexico? Is that even possible? It
is possible, but people hate my answer. They hate it every time. I was surprised getting over to Jersey, and I was out and about in the snow for a couple hours last night. And you know what I ran into a lot of that I was not aware that they had here? Dispensaries.
Yeah.
When did that happen? I'm getting to your point.
Over the last decade, right? Over the last 6 years?
5 years, okay.
Yeah.
So I've been gone from New York. Yeah, about that. So, I mean, when I was here, they didn't have dispensaries in New Jersey that I saw, but now they got them. They got them everywhere.
Yeah.
There's not people dying in the street from that shit. It was legally. It was a federally restricted drug. In fact, it still is.
Talking about weed, obviously.
Weed, marijuana. And there's not people... You don't have Jamaican posses in the street shooting each other over that shit. They taxed it. Mm-hmm. They're doing well with it. They talk about, drug legalization hasn't, and I'm getting to your point, exactly your point. People like to bemoan the legalization of drugs in Portland, where I personally live. All you bad people, I live in Portland, right across the street from the Department of Homeland Security. You can look me up. Not choosing you on, but if you want to go there, that's where I'm at. It's not a war zone. There is drug use that's rampant that goes on that should be better managed, but it's not the bad idea to legalize it. When you make something illegal, you're creating the opportunity to generate huge amounts of profit, which go to fund the engines that are the cartel.
My issue, and this is one of those impossible questions for me, is I've had a lot of issues with like the prohibitive nature that was created in the United States a long time ago, and then the downstream effects that had. But when we've legalized it now, it's almost like they took the full spigot off in a lot of ways to create problems.
Right.
Because we've seen some of the black markets get stronger than ever, which should never fucking happen. And we've even seen, it create opportunities for enormous intelligence breaches with all these fucking, Chinese-run weed farms.
I agree. They got Chinese weed farms in Maine.
It's exactly. I've had Steve Robinson in
here. You have the CIA selling crack cocaine or letting crack cocaine be sold in Los Angeles, which is where I come from. I saw it firsthand.
It's crazy.
My brother is a crackhead. I had to come home one day because we were selling crack. I was telling you about that. He's been sober for a long time, but one day I come home. And my brother's big. He's like 6'5", 6'6", like 280 pounds. I come home, and there's a big gargantuan guy out cold on the couch. I have to come in. I'm so afraid I slap him as hard as I can. He barely moves. And this was enabled by the American government in order to fund a foreign war that's got fuck all to do with what we got going on over here. And there's big money in it.
Yep.
So I know I get a lot of shit over, I don't want to cuss and turn this into a cuss fest. I take a lot of heat over my stance on the legalization of drugs, but I take that heat being someone that's confronted cartels directly with the same weapons that Eric Holder and the Department of Justice and the ATF sent to Mexico that murdered my brothers, and we fought against them directly from someone that claims that they want to end the drug war, right? So you got all this stuff going on, and you ask, what can we do in 40 or 50 years? I'm glad you asked. You have to invest in economic and educational opportunities to where,
Who? Mexico themselves?
Mexico and the United States.
Okay.
We're neighbors, man. We live in the same hood, dude. Yep. Educational and economic opportunities. First the education and then the economic will follow along the same way it did with the dot-com boom. The dot-com boom was non-existent until all of a sudden you have all these brainiacs producing, Wozniak and everyone else producing. Hell, they didn't even have a full-on college degrees. Steve Jobs was at a community college and quit, and Wozniak and the other guys, and came up with Apple and everybody that built these products that people spend big bucks on. I have one of them too. That create something of value. Standing around with a weapon is not creating something of value. And I know that people take issue with that because they pay their mortgages. I'm not attacking you. But I am saying that when all you produce by standing around with a weapon, which I myself have done, is a safe space to produce something, first of all, it's still going on a century later. We started prohibition back in the 30s or whatever. Here
1920.
1920.
1920.
Okay, so more than a century. We're still having this drug war. It's ineffective. Does not work. We're talking about this right now. If your approach worked, you being whoever supports keeping drugs illegal, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because I would think that you would be good enough at your job to actually affect a result, but you're not.
Yeah, the answer, to be clear, the answers we've been giving to these problems for a century
do not work.
Obviously aren't working. My whole thing is like, does that mean the opposite works? I guess probably not.
No.
But like, it's the fucking $1 trillion question.
My thing is this, is how would elevating the status of everybody in the community to where they are not forced to go out and work for the cartel? I've talked about that with Ed. A lot of the people that join the cartel don't even want to work for the cartel.
That's right.
A lot of them are people that are forced into it, that are traversing Mexican territory and are kidnapped by the cartel. And if they don't go to work for them, they'll be executed. That also wind up in these mass graves. And I think Ed's even said it right here at the same table and giving you the same answer on the same thing. So this isn't just one Mexican professional. It's a body of evidence in Mexico, and even presumably by honest law enforcement and military here that have seen the same thing. People that work in Afghanistan, if they had something else to farm other than opium poppies, even in Afghanistan, another culture, another language, but the problem's constant.
But you got to create that, whatever that thing is, or
you have to be able to produce something that you can sell, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, whether it's anything. And when you do that, and when you give people these educational opportunities to where they can produce something, it generates wealth and income, and that lifts or elevates the position of everybody in that society.
What about, though, the fact that the cartels are basically the multinational corporations of Mexico, and they can just muscle in on any new legitimate businesses that come up because they can use their power and fear and force to do it?
This is true. This is true. And this does happen in Mexico to a great extent, without a doubt.
Of course.
I was trying to figure out how to create a carbon fiber helicopter in Mexico. I rented a factory and everything, or a warehouse. I didn't get very far with it, but I did start drawing it up or drafting it in CAD, because in Mexico, you have to go through the jungles and stuff like that. And a lot of it's mountainous terrain. So you can quickly cover a lot more area when you're searching for marijuana farms with a little drone helicopter. So I was looking into doing this. And one of the chief fears that I had, and the fears of my other engineers at work, were what happens when the cartel muscles into it. First, there's all the bureaucracy, but even if you survive that with the Secretary of Communications and Transportes, which is who you have to get your stuff from, after you clear all those hurdles, you have the cartel to deal with. They are there, they are present, but if we can't even start educating people to where they can even have a chance to escape that, we can't even have the conversation about clearing the cartel hurdle. Once you can produce something, and there's enough people that can produce something, it becomes something so big that maybe the cartel would be more inclined to figure out how to make money legally and make their money that way, instead of trying to figure out how to make money that results in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people that have been disappeared and murdered or whatever, torture and everything that goes along with that. The overdose deaths on both sides of the border, primarily here in the United States, but also occurring in Mexico. So I think
they don't care though, Dave.
Who doesn't care?
The cartels.
I'm going with the American government and the people that pay their mortgages don't care.
Oh, I don't disagree with that either. But like, if we're going to the guys who are, who are running the business on a day to day, not just the people enabling them who clearly don't care. I agree. It's like they want power. They don't look at human life as human life.
Which is true. But to that, I'll say this. I'll argue that with this. Melinda Gates just divorced Bill Gates. We don't know why, but they clearly had a lot of power because with that much money comes clear power. Not going to get into the how and why Melinda decided to divorce Bill because that's irrelevant. What is relevant, though, that with the amount of money that Bill has just selling computer products, which suck, by the way, too. And I'm a PC guy, but
I'm with you.
Microsoft basically sucks. And it's not because Macs aren't prone to viruses. It's just not as many people have them, so they don't write them as much. That being said, even with an inferior computer product that Bill Gates clearly has because Macs are much better at so many different things, he still has amassed the amount of wealth that he's had. And he wasn't even the person that came up with Macintosh or Apple or any of that shit. It was Wozniak. I'm mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
you're talking about Steve Jobs and Apple. Yeah.
But Bill Gates came up. No, I am right. Bill Gates did not design the computer systems that he sells. It was another engineer that did it. You can hold me to it.
Paul Allen?
Not sure who, but Bill Gates was not the chief architect behind all of that. Still benefited off of it crazily, just coming up with something that he could sell that was not drugs, is legal, and has become arguably one of the most powerful men in the world.
Sure.
Bezos, same shit. Selling books out of a garage, building his third McMansion or whatever. So you can push the cartels that have a lot that are interested in power towards something that's legal that does not damage human lives the way that the drug industry does, or the cartels and everything that go on with that, allowing them to have their political power. I would argue that the Rothschilds, the Saudi royal family, and there's what is it? It starts with an R also, but there are several powerful people, plus the Peter Thiels and everybody in the world have huge amounts of power. And if the cartel could generate an income to where they did not have to risk federal time being extradited from their country of origin, I think that they would go with that. So I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying that what we've been doing doesn't work.
Sure.
What we're doing right now continues to generate bodies that maybe we should look at something different.
What you're talking about, though, and I'm not trying to paint this in a negative light. I'm just saying like what it would be is to almost give the devil an out and accept the fact that they've been a devil, but maybe you're not going to make them an angel, but you're going to make them less of a devil if you actually give them an opportunity to use their business expertise in some other type of lane that's viewed as less worse.
I agree with you, but also I would argue that we do that now. Everybody universally admits that removing Chapo created a power vacuum that's made it even worse. And so if you left Chapo there, or if you left other bad actors in other areas in the world there.
Saddam in Iraq, another example.
Perfect example. So we know that evil exists. We know that people want drugs. We know all these things. And we know that sometimes leaving somebody in place, chess, I'm pretty sure you play it. I played it. There are times when leaving a pawn there and another attacking pawn on a queen's gambit or whatever, it's more beneficial to leave your pawn there, knowing it's at risk, knowing it's not a great position, but it's a good position. It's not something you're going to lose. And Chapo and Saddam are both great examples of that because things have gotten exponentially worse. They have this Indice de Paz, Mexico 2023. You can go through that thing year after year after year, and you're still going to see problematic eras with two national countries directly interested in everything that goes on in Mexico, and they still can't turn that map green. These are our experts. So I'm just saying that maybe we should, you asked me a 50,
look at something different.
you asked me a 50-year plan. To me, that's what it looks like. School becas or scholarships, economic opportunity to where people are not provoked. And even, I'll end my little thesis with this. If you strip away their base personnel, how powerful is a general without an army to fight it for them?
Not powerful at all.
So if you diminish the amount of foot soldiers that they have and their ability to get stuff done because all of their halcones and everybody else that they use to facilitate this drug war, and you start stripping the death of 1,000 cuts.
In theory, that's right. But when you're talking about the fact that they recruit by force fucking 8-year-olds and train their minds at a young age to be a part of this culture, and then they buy off and buy through threats from the lowest levels of law enforcement to the highest levels, to the military, to the politicians, you create this like totally sustained, awful, dark ecosystem. And also, like, I had Sheriff Matt Thomas in here recently, and something that I've been very uneducated on. I've heard about it before, but, you know, not to the extent that he experienced, was like even like this psycho ass backwards fucking antichrist religious like culture they have in some of the cartels, but like the occultism and like the worship of like basically the gun and what they do and making it into a god. Like that's how they sell it to these kids.
I totally agree. Well, no, there was a guy one time. There was a cartel guy. There's a couple of them. I'll tell you about the 14-year-old one. There was a 14-year-old that has taped a guy to a wooden chair with duct tape and opened his cranium up with a hammer, pulled out his cortex or his brain, and filled his skull, his cavity, full of a can of stewed or chopped tomatoes, diced tomatoes. The kid was like 14 years old, wasn't an adult, wound up going to juvenile hall, probably out of prison right now. This kid's FFL. I mean, he's never coming back. You got that dynamic to it. So that's something that really happened. There's also the dynamic of, it is true, everything that you just said, without a doubt. But you asked me what we can do in 40 or 50 years. And if I were to sit here across the table from you and say, you know what, I'm going to walk away, we can't do anything, inviting Satan in the room's a deal breaker. Satan's already in the room. So my question is, how can we mitigate the circumstances most amicably, the benefit of the most people in society, which means that we have to attack the problem a certain way. We can't just sit by and do anything. So this is my approach to it, is to try to cut down where we can, which the government already does try to do, which is civil. They even have it here, civil asset forfeiture. They take people's money without even knowing if they did something wrong, but you have all these people murdering people and you're not going to try to take their money. I know that they're getting foot soldiers. I know that they have money, but we're going to try to diminish that by creating opportunities and taking the money that we can. And I submit that that's a better approach than just sitting there trying to play whack-a-mole, sending drone predator drones over and blowing up people's houses that have nothing to do with anything, that just live in the wrong area.
And it allows to create propaganda.
And plus, if you kill people, like I was talking smack about the Quran recently, and I was specifically stating it is what it is. There's a reason why I've read it twice. Of
course you have.
I did, because there's like the 7 pillars of Islam, right? And I'm working in the Bering Sea, and I'm working with these French black people that are Muslims from the north of Africa. And they're trying to convert me to Islam. So I start reading this stuff. And I look in there, and I'm like, wow, cut off the head and the hand and all this stuff. And to be fair, the Quran does not say to cut off the right hand, but that is in the Hadith, which is their books that are companion books to the Quran, tell you this. When you start looking at things at length, it could be anything. And we create this entire war against people that are Muslim fundamentalists, and you start killing their children and their civilians, and they didn't have anything. Do you think that's going to have a positive or a negative impact?
Negative.
Right. All these people in Gaza, I am completely against the Israeli state, not the religion, the state, blowing up babies in their cribs.
Of course.
And I will argue that publicly every day of the week, even with my past and my tattoos, because killing children in their cribs is not Christian, right?
Totally wrong.
So we go over and start blowing up Mexico and destroying people's homes. Yeah, there's the cartels to deal with now, but do you want a galvanized population that's had their neighborhoods and homes and children destroyed? So I'm just going to put that out there. Do you want to create more enemies than you currently have? Because that's the route. That's where that route goes.
I think it's a great point. You have to think about the third order effects of what propaganda can be used that also has, unfortunately, some truth to it. If you take like the ultimate just fucking, let's mop the floors actions, because you may get some of the bad guys you want, but you're going to create a lot of people who look to one source as like the source of evil and death and destruction in their life because their grandma got blown up by some fucking little computer in the sky.
Can I give Katerina Szulc a little bit of credit? Because I've been critical of her.
You've been critical of Kat?
A little bit. A lot
of people are critical of Kat.
Yeah, but I do want to say one thing that I really think that she nailed it on. Somewhere in one of her interviews, she was talking about galvanizing the forces or the forces of the cartels. Yeah, it was her. She actually, she nailed that one on the money. If you invade Mexico, not only do you destroy our economy and our access to cheap goods and cheap cars, but you also, and create strife and division between American families that have loved ones on both sides of the borders. Right. And it's not a couple people. It's
a lot.
Most of Los Angeles, most of California, all of the southern states, get out of here, man. It's my Uber driver from today. She has family in Mexico. She nailed it when she said that if you go and attack Mexico, you are going to put the Mexican country public in a position to where the cartels and the Mexican military and the Mexican law enforcement agencies, all of whom are veterans at this point in the American sense of the term of fighting war, and you're going to levy it directly against us. And is that smart? I think that there are smarter ways, and people that are smarter than I am, that could come up with a more strategic way that'd be more beneficial. And really, I'm saying that for the people that are on the Facebook comments that get other people to perpetuate an idea. Maybe they haven't thought it all the way through. I think that they are missing the mark, or would be remiss if they don't think about all the consequences that go with predator drone strikes on cartel or doing the Nicolas Maduro approach.
For sure. There's a lot there. It is not a simple answer at all. It's just like we've been saying, it's so ingrained in the culture. It's like, how do you move that out? How do you get people who have been born into a desensitized environment to suddenly be sensitized to the idea that, there's a brighter life out there. It doesn't need to be all guns and bloods and guts.
Well, we perpetuate that shit here too.
For sure.
Well, I mean, even in the video games and all the movies that we watch.
Absolutely.
How many people want to be John Wick?
Right. But how many people in America go outside and see heads on spikes because it's a Tuesday?
No, they don't. And do they want that here?
That's a valid point, man. So it's like
that's I want to just button up my little thing with that. There was a time when the Mexican military rolls in and they get these cartel guys. We weren't involved with it, but they get these cartel guys and they capture the cartel's family. They capture the military commander's family. They call the guy up because they got their phone numbers. They call him and they're like, "Hey, we got all of our family here. Your family here." Didn't have to fire a shot. Guy lets all of his guys go. Fuck it. We'll catch them later. Whatever. So America likes to think that it's the greatest military power in the world. You know what? I wouldn't argue that it is. But the thing that's interesting or unique about America is they don't fight their wars on their own soil. And when you do, it's important to note for all the John Wickian wannabe Safeway, tack vests, plate carriers, security guards that think they're John Wick, that when you're fighting that, one, having direct access to your family is going to take the fight out of half of you right off the top. Two, when you're watching your buddies blown away, you have a lot of people self-deleting after they get out of the military because you start looking at things as meat and you just aren't able to process all the trauma that goes along with that. So the people that are wanting and wishing war that haven't seen it yet probably won't want it after they get done seeing it. And then that leaves you with a few people that really are true meat eater, hard charging people that thrive on violence and stuff like that. And I would say that maybe those aren't the people that should be leading us if that's what they want out of life.
Yeah.
So.
And like you said, great point on people don't understand war on your own soil and what that looks like here in America.
Yeah.
That's something I think about
Everybody's on the table.
Even World War II, that shit was all over there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
Besides Pearl Harbor, obviously, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
and
not...
if you think that the cartel cannot do it, we just got done forking over $7.1 billion in American taxpayer weapons to people that are Islamic fundamentalists that do not like or have our well-being at hand. So that's what I got.
Interesting world we got.
It is,
Interesting world we got. Which, by the way, Dave, I don't know if we have the clip, Dave, from Mark's podcast, but You kind of called me and Tommy G out.
You know what? You
did. You thought it was dubious.
No, hey.
You thought it was a dubious claim. You want to waterboard me right now?
Yeah. You know what? Let's go.
I've never had someone offer to waterboard me.
No,
on
you know
the
what? Hey,
before.
we can do that fucking right now. I'm fucking glad you brought that up. No, hey, whoa. So hey,
Wait, can we play this real fast for people so they understand?
Yeah. Okay.
Cut to the 45-second mark, Deef.
I knew it was gonna fucking come up.
Yeah. I can't let this go.
You
waterboarded
I wanted
yourself.
to pose the question, but it was probably enough.
So how did it go when you waterboarded yourself?
It was really, I cheated because I stuck my head in this bucket of water down there. I did. I taped it up.
Mark was sitting right where I did.
Were you there for this?
No, but I saw the blood and everything.
Yeah. So I'm down there and I'm like waterboarding myself and I'm hitting myself in my head because I just want to see how it goes because I thought their claims were dubious, man. And I love Tommy G, Julian. I'm not talking smack. I love you guys, man. In fact, you're right here in New York. Tommy G's not, but Julian's out there.
Yeah, fuck yeah, let's do this, man.
I actually talked to him for like 2 hours about his experience with it.
You tell him that I will love to waterboard him. No, because you let Bustamante do it. Hey, man, I'm legit.
So, hey.
I'm retired from it.
Okay.
But you know what I'm going to do for you, Dave? I'm going to give you the full, unedited, continuous 25-minute segment that I have on my computer out there, and you can watch it for yourself.
No, I appreciate it, but I want to bring this up. Okay, so like I come off as like a jerk, and you know what? Maybe it's good that you brought.
No, it was funny as hell.
No, but I mean, a lot of the people I've been critical of, I am like, when you email someone for a year straight and they don't get back to you, you're gonna feel a certain way about it, especially when you got all this experience. So one of the things that I do, I'm into data analysis, and so I'm into social and organizational network analysis, and I go down everything with brass tacks. So one of the interviews that Ed Calderon, he was talking about people being tortured at the military base there in Tijuana, and hearing people screaming while they were being waterboarded. So I took it upon myself. I don't have someone at home to waterboard me, so I had to do it to figure out whether or not you can scream while you're being waterboarded. And I know I'm like sitting there, bam, I've got this towel taped around my head. I'm drowning myself as good as I can by myself, which is, don't get me wrong, I don't want people to waterboard me, but I needed to figure out whether you could hear screaming while someone had a cloth over their face that was full of water. And as it turns out, you can. I challenge you. No, we can't do that.
No one. I want to be very clear. You tried this at home. We were very clear in that documentary. I remember recording it when Tommy was right there saying, do not, under any circumstances, try this at home. So just for you to do not fucking try this at home. You are
full disclosure, in my commitment to bring you the truth, during the course of my investigations, I called Tommy G's Cartel contacts, which was a burner phone. Which makes sense. I'm not saying he's lying.
If there's fucking flies on this guy, they're paying rent.
No, I fucking waterboarded myself in my basement the best I could. Hit myself in the head as hard as I could because I wanted to see just... These guys are laughing, man.
Oh my God. It's hilarious.
No, because I'm fucking committed, man.
I know you're committed, but it's hilarious that you're so committed.
And then you get these people on YouTube, they're talking about he wouldn't do that. The fuck I wouldn't. If you want to come over and watch, man, you're invited, man, unless you're someone that's going to add me and my family.
Oh, man.
Hey, brother.
Hey, shout out to you for doing it to yourself. That's
hey,
next
man,
level
I needed to
commitment.
know. I'm from Missouri. You got to show me, man.
That's right. But
what's the one, Nikki Santoro?
Keep that mic with you, by the way.
Oh, what's the one, Nikki Santoro? I'm fucking stupid. I'm like, I'm a
little fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, because I'm just gonna keep doing it until I get to where I want to go, man.
Yeah, I'm retired. I did it once. It was interesting.
Hey, I want to say one more thing before we wrap this up. I've talked a lot of shit in the last year. And I've been putting together a network of all the major podcasters and shit like that. And if I had an inkling, I've talked so much shit that if I had an inkling that Julian or any of them weren't for real, I would say so. I would go on my channel. I'd be talking shit in 15 minutes. You know I would.
I believe you.
But everything that I've seen here today with Julian and getting to know Mark and everybody else over the course of the last year, I'm grateful that you've given me the opportunity to come here and get to know you.
Thank you for coming.
Because, for sure, because it alleviates a lot of what I have to say about podcasters that all of us see online. And I want people to know that they're getting the truth when they watch a video and you come up with a quality product, both in terms of your set, the technical expertise that you have here, and everything that you guys do to make sure that America stays more informed, man. And so that's my honest impression of Julian and everybody here. And, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity, because it's not everybody that gets to come here, man. So thank both of you guys.
Well, I appreciate you being here all day and doing 2 episodes. You're entertaining as hell. And what a life, man. I mean,
Idiot
holy
savant.
shit.
That's what they call me.
Wait, listen, I don't give a fuck what they call you. You got a lot going on there, and you're not an idiot for sure.
Fucking waterboard guy, man. That's
But
so
fucking waterboard
Russo, yeah, they
guy.
would tell me that
The
shit.
Russo. But we'll have your YouTube link down below so people can go check that out and see
Cool,
all
brother.
the videos. I love. So I listened to one of your episodes with Mark. I think it was. Well, I listened to the neo-Nazi one. You guys did like 3 or 4. I listened to the one where it was some of the story that you told me in the first episode here. Great stuff. So everyone check out Camp Gagnon. Thank you to Mark for helping hook this up. But awesome stuff, man. I really enjoyed this today.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for coming.
I enjoyed it too.
All right. Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me.
You know what it is.
Thank you guys for watching the episode. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and smash that like button on the video. They're both a huge, huge help. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram and X, those links are in my description below.